The Hustle Brothers are back. Race, imposter syndrome is a real thing. What we saying?
Oh, we're back, better than ever. I think I've missed the guys quite a lot, and I'm very excited for these earnings. I think
Yeah.
everyone's portfolio is probably looking green at the moment, dare I say. But yeah, good spirits. And the weather over here at the moment is unreal. What about you? How have you been?
Oh, let me tell you a story. I'll actually start off with this. You know what the bug is, but for any of the guys that don't know what the bug is, we basically over here in Ireland, we cut turf out of the ground and we basically dry it. So you stand it up, you foot it, and you bring it home and you burn it. Yeah. So I've been out all week footing turf, and it's been as hot as it has been in England. Now, to you guys over in America, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it's about 22, 23 degrees over here. Yeah. So I had the bright idea to go up there. It was 2 days ago. No top on, no nothing. 7 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna get cracking for the day. Yeah, mate. Didn't I feel it? Yeah, I am red raw from the back. I mean the whole back. Yeah, I can barely sit on this seat. So, guys, if you see me in the stream moving about, I haven't answered my pants. I am just sunburned. I look like a squashy sweet. But Reese, how have you been over the past while? What has the market been saying to you?
I think, well, since that China US deal for 90 days has sort of been agreed, well, temporarily, let's say, the portfolio is looking good. We're starting to see everything sort of return to where we were sort of expecting it to be. And it was basically what we were saying earlier on in the year, where we were saying that this was just a negotiation tactic, that the tariffs weren't going to be imposed just to gain revenue as they were described. And yeah, the markets responded. But yeah, I think it's a good time to be in the market compared to earlier on in the year. What about you? How's the market been treating you?
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to come on here. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We've 18 people here at the moment. For any of the guys that don't know why we haven't been here we pride ourselves on being here every single day in the eVTOL industry, in Rocket Lab, and it will continue. However, we had quite sad family events that occurred over the past 3 weeks or so, and we lost one of our close relatives. So that's why we haven't been online. And I want to thank so many of you. The messages we were getting,
Yeah, really
it's
appreciate
been
it.
insane. Like, I would be looking at my phone. I'm like, we genuinely have built a family here.
Yeah,
And people have been so concerned. And I want to thank two people in particular. I want to thank Dylan Rogers for constantly reaching out and constantly just keeping the channel upbeat. And I also want to thank New Blade, who has kept the X and the Discord running. Martin Lucas Investor, good luck all. Big night for Archer Aviation. More people covering this, the better. Good luck all. I know you're covering it yourself, Martin, so thank you so much for the support.
100%.
And again, good luck to Vaz tonight. Yeah. And guys, by the way, the fact that Martin's in here, if you'd like to see us and Vaz collaborate together, reach out to us, because I know Vaz is constantly here for eVTOL Weekly, so it's something we can get done. And if you want to see us on Martin's channel, I'm sure Martin would be more than happy to have us on as well. We really appreciate what he does. Great to see you live. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, so really, I haven't been looking at the markets as much as I should have the last 3 weeks or so. It's been trickling in, trickling out. I didn't feel right coming on making videos during that time. And myself and Reese were going to come back. We actually announced it. We were going to come back on Friday. But then we had a discussion and we were like, well, why not come back on a live where we can sort of explain to everyone because the problem was if we just put out a video, someone could click off after a minute and they just think we've just ran off into the sunset. So I want to let you know, guys, that we're going to be here every single day going forward. And one thing I really want to know from you, and I'm going to ask it throughout the stream, just so like pen and paper there ready. Do you prefer when me and Reese do content together and discuss the stock back and over, or do you prefer when we do it solo format? So myself will do one video, Reese will do another video, and so on. Please let me know which you prefer, because really we can do it either way. All I'm saying is, solo wise, we can probably cover more ground.
Yeah.
What do you think with that, Reese?
No, I'm in complete agreement. I think when we do the joint videos, it sort of limits us to only the one video. Whereas if we sort of do our solo videos, we can sort of cover 2 different stocks or 2 different areas. And that sort of guarantees us that we cover more ground. And there just seems to be so much news at the moment, especially because of the last 3 weeks. And I think we need to catch back up and make sure everyone's informed. They know all about the eVTOL stocks. And it's the great time for the eVTOL stocks. We've recovered now. I bet there's a lot of people from that last earnings call that are shooting themselves at the moment. And that's just the way the market is. Like sometimes you sell out and you sit there kicking yourself. And then other times you stick in it and you then green days come back again. And I think that's what we were sort of trying to tell everyone in that last earnings call is don't panic. Like this is going to be a longer than just one earnings call. There's going to be many, many, many more earnings calls. And hopefully they're all as good as this one.
Do you know what it is too? I wonder how many will join in today. Because I remember, if anyone remembers around that time, it was that sort of meme craze around Archer. And you had the talks of, what's that melt's name? The fella that pumps GameStop and that. Roaring Kitty. We had the likes of him talking about it. So we had every person and their cousin jumping into Archer at the time. And you sort of, it echoed through the chat. And it was a bit like a virus. As soon as one person said it was selling off, mate, I think me and you had a bit of a laugh in it. And I think someone more or less tore us to shreds in the chat for being so calm about it. But we said we will do this going forward. Before we get into the earnings, I want to warn every single person here. Do not react. I don't care whether you buy, whether you sell during the earnings, no matter what happens.
Even if it goes up or it goes down.
We could see the stock boom. But don't emotionally react. What's your thoughts on that, Race?
No, 100%. I think that's what we were trying to explain last time is we don't want to be dealing on emotion. You don't want to be buying because it's gone up and you don't want to be selling because it's gone down. Like you need to listen to the earnings call. That's the whole point of this. The whole reason that you're actually tuning in. You want to be listening and you'll be like, oh, that was a good point. That was a bad point. And then you need to have make your mind up based on the information. And I love the chat, but if the chat start telling everyone to sell, make your own mind up. I want everyone to be independent here. At the end of the day, it's your finances that you're dealing with. So don't worry about if someone said the EPS has missed, because that just created this snowball effect. And before we knew it, the stock was just plummeting. I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, I thought I'd missed something in the earnings call because I was looking at the chat. And then I was really I was bewildered to see where the price was going. But I think that's exactly what happens with fear in the market. Like literally, as soon as people see it going down, people are worried and they want to hold on to what they have. But if you believed in it today, like the space of 12 hours or the space of 1 hour as of last time should not affect what you believed in the stock. Because there was no way they were going to say, oh, we've got part certification in the last earnings call. You knew that they were only, 21% the way through. So there was no time that was ever going to happen. So it should never have affected your opinion either way.
And Reese mentioned something there. Anyone that's new to Archer here, I don't want to burst the balloon now, but I know, look, we were vulnerable to it when we first got into both Archer and Joe B. That I think sometimes when you first jump into the stock, you anticipate that certification is going to come quicker than you think. So anyone that is on this live thinking we're going to hear that they're certified tonight, I don't want to burst your bubble, but that ain't happening. We're going to get into what we're going to expect for this earnings call. And I think that's why we've came live earlier this time, just so we can sort of discuss with the guys. But what I really want to do, we're having quite an active comment section, so I'm going to jump into that now. But I want to put something up. We're going to keep an eye on the stock price going into the closing bell. Something we've never done before because we're always live after the closing bell. However, I want to throw something out there. I'm currently changing job at the moment. What I'm going doing next really opens me up on YouTube and would allow me to either do the opening bell or the closing bell. If that's something you'd like to see by the Hustle Brothers, either only covering the eVTOL stocks or we could do it more general. If it's something you'd really like and a live stream of that, please let me know. But look, if I only get 1 or 2 people saying, yeah, there's no point me even attempting it. But anyway, let me jump straight back to the comments. Michael Young, great to see you guys back. I'll still be working when the live stream happens, but I'll check it out later. Look, again, I can't believe the amount of messages we got. Just wondering where we are, how we're getting on, what we're doing.
And I think that's what we were hoping to do when we first started this, was to start like a community where we're all sort of talking to each other and we've all got the same sort of passion and enthusiasm around this stock. And it's great to see. And then that's what we're hoping to grow, is a sort of family vibe where everyone's sort of looking out for each other. And I think that's why we always say, just keep it respectful. People can have different views. You'll always have different views. With me and my brother always argue. Me and my sister always argue. But there's always that mutual respect. I think that's important.
100%. Just me. Glad to hear from you guys. Do you know what? It's just endless. The amount of people that were sending us messages. I just can't believe it. See everyone soon. Hope everyone is doing well. I think Dylan finishes around closing bell, so I cannot wait to see you. Looking forward to this one. Only just started investing at Halloween. Doing good, but looking to start investing heavily in eVTOL and getting in early. And that's the thing, like, look, what are we now? If we look over the past month, we've rallied up 31%. If we look over the past 6 months, look, it's skewed a bit because of that November run. Saying we're up 98%. We are moving nicely.
Yeah.
But this stock is in such an early phase. Like, the run room of this is immense. And that's another thing. I don't want people to get scared if they hear that Archer are looking to dilute or anything like that, because sometimes dilution is the best way to get the business into the place it needs to run forward.
And especially when the stock price is up at these sort of levels. I think we'd been quite worried when it was down in the 6s and things like that.
Yep.
That would have been a very worrying time, because that would look like it's almost panic stations. I think we're going to be, well, fingers crossed, touch wood. I'm hoping that this is going to be rallying up, and I'd like to see it push near that all-time high of 1248. That's my goal.
You'll be selling 20%.
Only if Cole says so.
If Cole's not here.
Yeah.
So anyone that isn't here, Reese has a deal with a guy on here. Every time it reaches the all-time high, Reese is always saying, I should trim 20% of my position when it reaches all-time high. But look, I'm scapegoating Reese. I'm as bad for this. But Reese just openly said it. And he wanted to trim off 20%, but he never knows when to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So what Reese has decided to do is ask one of our members here to actually let them know when it reached the all-time high, and he has to take off that 20%. And I'm interested to see, does he actually do it? And guys, trust me, I'll let you know. Oh yeah, that's another one. If you haven't, make sure to join the eVTOL investors community on X, completely free. But that is where we get a lot of our information from. So look, if you can't be bothered to watch one of our videos, you'll be able to see it firsthand where we get the information from. A lot of the information that we share in our videos, we do post in there, or we pick and choose what we're taking from there. Another thing, and this is quite exciting, Archer Daily shared a video with me earlier to do with piloted flights. And if no one has seen it, let me know and I'll share it on the screen. Because I made a video, literally, it was the last video before I went off, that we were getting close. It was the closest indication we had to piloted flights. We were getting a little bit of hate for it. And lo and behold, it's when it happened. So, guys,
it would be. I would like. There's one member I would like to watch that video, and if Mag does,
I want to watch. I want him here live with us on an eVTOL weekly stream, watching the Joby one. Yeah, because I've kind of worked out they've blew his theory out of the water, and he owes us quite a bit of money. Hopefully, some positive vibes. Do you know what? I'm in for a party today.
Yeah.
Did you see the video? I think that's the video we're on about. Sorry for your loss. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you very much, Manny.
Which one? Dylan, we will show it. Martin, we respect what you do. If we could get this community to even a tenth of the size of your one, it'd be amazing. So, guys, if you haven't, follow Martin Lucas. He is great at what he does. I do think we do something different here, but he is great at what he does.
And in terms of output, I think that's what we need to get to, that sort of level of output.
If you can match Martin's output, you're...
That's a hard-working man.
yeah, you're doing something right. However, what if we matched up Martin's output as the two of us?
There you go.
That could be a goal. And only focused on eVTOLs.
We'll grow with the stock. Yeah.
Do you know what? I feel like we need to put our head down this quarter. Massively.
Well, I think especially because we have the target, don't we, for, was it August or September? Yeah. So we really need to knuckle down now.
Yeah, I'd like to put like a countdown down for that. And guys, if you haven't and you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Because we are pushing that 2,500 mark. And yeah, by September, we will be at that 5,000. I believe it. I honestly do.
Well, I hope
very excited after I saw the video. Do you know what? We're going to get this video up in a minute. We're always here for you guys. Thank you. And Dylan, I can't thank you enough. The amount of times you kept reaching out to me was unbelievable. So I can't thank you enough. Can you send a link in the DM to the Discord? Oh, by the way, if you notice that I am not on the Discord as much lately, my other laptop is currently getting repaired. So if you noticed, my camera kept going down in the middle of the live streams. Or if me and Reese were recording together, you'd notice our mics were muffly. And that was because I was hosting the stream. And something to do, look, I'm not a wizard on computers, but it was something to do with the chip in the computer. Couldn't process the lot. So I'm running off a different computer at the moment. Both are great. Not to make it more confusing, but I do like you guys together back and forth. But I know times may not be able to work the link together. That's the thing, like, do you know what? I don't actually think we're that hard to link together. Like, if it's something people wanted and they really, really wanted it, we can get the output out, but we would get double the amount of videos out as singles.
Maybe there's some sort of happy medium we can have. I think we'll trial it out now in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see what gets the best response.
Happy to see you both, but the sound gets funky when you're together. but not today, sounding clear. And that's exactly what I'm on about. That old laptop, my
That's
God. I'd be battling with it every live stream. My lights would go off. Next thing, my mouse would start working. It was a nightmare. Tell me if it's sounding better today. Crazy how if you would have bought only the last earnings call, when the price dropped, you would be up about 80% in those 3-ish months. And that's the thing. I think if you look at any of the speculative stocks, I think you could say the same thing. Rocket Lab went down to like $14 and it's now trading around 21, 22. Likes of Nvidia even dropped dramatically and it's now trading at like 122. So I think it was just a market-wide thing. Not on Discord, I think. I can send you via X or something. Manny, if you want to join the Discord, I'm sure Dylan will drop the link in the comments. It's completely free to join. I know our diehards are constantly on Discord. And do you know what? They have such a great relationship together. And I know some of them call each other now and again. And that would be where I would talk to a lot of the guys that want to get their information across to me. I know Archer Daily does contact me through X. Discord's probably easier to organize our videos when they share the information across. But guys, if you want information shared on videos, doesn't matter who you are, whether you think you're a specialist, don't think you're a specialist. Look, me and Reese have openly said it. We are not specialists. What we try to do is get the information from the specialist and convey it to the layman. So, look, we're not bulletproof when it comes to charts, but we have guys that read charts. We're not bulletproof when it comes to the actual engineering side. But you know what? They can convey it to us and we can convey it to you. So, the more people in this community we grow that have different types of knowledge, different types of opinion, it just gets better and better for everyone.
Exactly.
What's your X, Many, if you're up for sharing it? Many, I'll make sure to follow you after this. I got to go pick up my son, so I may be listening and not typing for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Dylan actually sent me a picture of his son's last day. Do you know what? His son is mad into, is it taekwondo at the moment?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine being like mad at taekwondo. That'd be unbelievable. I sometimes wish I'd done something like that when I was younger, you know.
Exactly the same. It was just football. That was it.
And as you can see, we're not professional footballers.
Yeah, that's how we ended up on YouTube.
Do you know what? We could critique them though.
We could probably edit a video to make it look like we're half decent, but that's probably
that. Looking and listening closely for guidance over earnings, and we will get into that in a minute. There is a few things I want to. Reese, once it comes to around 9 o'clock, will you make sure to stop me if I'm still talking to the comments? Because
I think we're gonna have to start addressing what we're expecting to see. A little bit of follow over from last month.
Try to lock your game plan in for AH, and like Reese said, have the mind made up for yourselves. And that's the thing. Don't let people sway you. Don't let us sway you. Me and Reese are very passionate, and sometimes it can come across as like we could be too bullish or too bearish. Like I know some people say we're more Archer than Joe would be, and then or flip-flop, and we get quite passionate, but we always have the discussion. And I want to make it clear, like no one can sway us, and to be fair, we probably can't sway each other. I'm not even going to lie on that. But I feel like if you feel like you're going to get swayed, talk to someone, even if it's not on this channel, if it's on another channel, but just talk to other people that have the same interests as you. They don't have to be bullish. They don't have to be bearish on the stock, but just sort of discuss your thesis, why you're in the stock, what you expect to see. Look, I'm going to have a different opinion to someone that's looking to sell in 3 months, 4 months time, or even someone that's looking to sell once certification gets over the line, because I know that's a strategy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. That is a strategy that is out there. people are in eVTOLs hoping for a certification, and they're just going to ride that up and bang, they're gone. But from what I have heard over the past year, I will be investing in Archer and Joby for the next 5 to 10 years anyway, and I'll see how it goes. At the moment, I've been beating down Joby for the past quarter, but I am, after that last earnings call, I am quite bullish on them now. And I want to see, does Archer match it? I don't want to put too much pressure on them, because yes, we can say they were founded 9 years after Joby, but do you know what? Doesn't really matter. Business is a pro game.
At the moment, though, we're in like a real interesting phase because we're actually getting to see the flights. Whereas before it was all just hypothetical, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it's going to do. But now, like, seeing is believing. You see it fly. You're seeing it fly over the 5 miles with a pilot, and you believe, like, that is genuine, like, just fact. Obviously, it's a long road ahead. I'm not saying, oh, we've seen a few piloted flights now, tomorrow we're going to be fine. But, like, for me, I feel like we're in that sort of, like, sweet spot in the middle where it's no longer just theoretical. We're actually seeing a bit of practical use of it. And the next few months, pushing on a year, we should be getting very close to that part certification, if not receiving it. And then after that, you can just imagine it will be a massive explosion going forward, which I can't wait to see.
Guys, can someone let me know, is the financials out? Because some of the comments... Please let me know if you can see it out. I am sure it don't come out till after the closing bell, but I could be wrong here.
I'm pretty sure last time it came out
You what?
I'm pretty sure last time it came out around 9:30ish, sort of that sort of time. But yeah, as you said, in the chat, it looks like a possibility, and maybe it's already out.
And the stock's not really moving as such, so I'm not sure what's happening there. We'll keep going. Earnings will show with delivery that will come. I think that's a good time to sort of move on to what we sort of want to see, or sort of look back over what has happened. Palantir is a big one.
A massive one.
I want to know how that got over the line. I am very careful that I'm on an Archer-only stream now in my wording on this. However, I'm going to be honest. I want to see how the language he uses. Because they say a partnership with Palantir. However, from everything I can see, it's more of a customer to Palantir.
Yeah.
It was great wording, but from what I see, it's a customer to Palantir. They'll be using Palantir.
They're using a system on it. They're like a management
I can't
system.
really see that, like, I don't know, symbiotic relationship. I can see it's a customer. You're using Palantir's. I don't know.
Do you know what though? It was a good bit of news that broke, because it made me even more. But they've been saying this for years as well. It wasn't just, but obviously they just recycled it and pushed it out again. And that
was like my second video on Archer ever, was on Archer and Palantir. And I actually thought people weren't actually that interested, but it was just people had never seen it. And because our channel was so small at the time, people just didn't see it. And I redone the same video. It was about 2 or 3 weeks before the Palantir partnership, customer, whatever you want to call it, got announced. And it performed very, very well. But I didn't change anything. I just, I had my new background. That was it. It's interesting how things go. I want to see that. Look, this is something I've spoken about before. I've done a video on it. but I want to hear more about Los Angeles. I feel like it's kind of gone quiet a little bit, and I want to hear more about the World Cup
Yeah.
26, the 2027 Super Bowl, and most importantly, the Olympics in 2028.
I think this was a great spot by you, that Olympics one, because you did have to decipher like a photo, and you sort of worked your way back and then found out what city was it in. So I think it was a great spot from you. And when you look at the timelines of when everything would be certified and when you could start rolling out commercialization, that would probably be the ideal date. Like obviously the World Cup might be test flights and getting a little bit of exposure, then the Super Bowl following that. But then that Olympics, you get the world's eyes on it, and it's a major sporting event that everyone around the world is at. Like, if they can pull it off, how that would be an amazing piece of not only PR but like exposure to the world.
Well, that's the thing. In my head, and do not take this as gospel, but in my head, what I can see is 1 to 2 midnight for the World Cup. Yeah, it could be flying the likes of, I don't know, presidents or something like that into the stadium, or it could be something like delivering the match ball. It could be anything like that. Yeah, it's going to be at the SoFi Stadium, and we know Stan Kroenke has allowed them to build a vertiport at the stadium, but that vertiport won't be ready until 2027, which is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So in my head, it'll be 1 to 2 demo sort of flights showing what's happening, but you'll want to get big celebrities on that. Then for the Super Bowl, again, I could see it being high end, like the likes of Stan Kroenke himself coming in. Maybe some of your major football players coming in on them. It could be the likes of dropping the ball down. Or even, don't they have like halftime shows at the Super Bowl? It could be even landing in with the pop star or whatever into that. But I do think 2028 is the time. They said they won't have the infrastructure ready, but LA came out and said they won't have any of their infrastructure, transport infrastructure ready. They don't have enough roads. They don't have enough capacity for the crowd they're expecting. So isn't it an ideal time to have this alternative mode of transport?
Yeah.
And then Archer said they won't have the vertiports ready. So then I sort of dived in a little bit more. And then we sort of learned that they're going to be using redundant helipads and redundant airfields, which there seems to be quite a few around Los Angeles. Now, there's 2 thoughts to that. Number one, I don't really want to use redundant helipad on top of a hospital or something like that. That's not really the pristine sort of like luxury experience that you sort of anticipate with Archer. And how redundant are these, and how much money are they willing to like inject into this for a temporary vertiport? Because in theory, yes, you want them to be there. You want it to be in front of the world because it is the Olympics. However, do you want them injecting an awful lot of capital into these vertiports that are only temporary? Because really, like, these helipads are not going to be suitable for the scale we're anticipating. Then another thing I need to think of coming into this earnings call is that United Airlines announcement for New York. And then it kind of made me think, is Los Angeles sort of taking a back step? Is it like sort of push back a bit and bit like, do you know what? Let's ride on the back of United and they'll help us grow out, which is another good strategy. I think is it 9 vertiports they're on about having in
didn't they? We brought it up.
the US. Then another thing I really want to hear about is, and Archer Daily gave me all the information on this, and it was just after the video about the piloted flight. So Archer Daily, I'm sorry I never got the video out. And look, I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. It could have been announced. I haven't been that up to date with all the ins and outs of like little rumors going around. But I would like to know, is there an Abu Dhabi manufacturing facility being built? Because I got pictures of plans and what were they called? Heliports. So it was going to be both a helipad and a vertiport, and there was something like 10 of them being built into the or not into the manufacturing, into the airport in Abu Dhabi. But then it kind of makes me think they're going to need a manufacturing facility, and then he gave me information on the manufacturing facility, and it just, do you know what?
Do you know what? That's quite an interesting one, because Abu Dhabi Aviation are buying the crafts directly, aren't they? And then they're servicing them themselves and running them themselves. So there's like just cutting out the travel or exporting them over there. Do you think that might have been related to the tariffs that were put in place, just to make sure they avoid any future tariffs if Donald Trump at any point decides to change his mind again?
It could be. It really could be. But I do think if you're in the likes of Abu Dhabi, look, we know they're going to be heavy in there. And they're going to need a manufacturing facility there. They're not going to want to transport that many midnights across to there from the US. But it also made me think, you touched on a good point there. So Abu Dhabi Aviation bought them, yeah? But then it brings me back to the video on the price per seat on Midnight. And if anyone hasn't seen, I've broke down the actual costs by Archer themselves. This is not me just making up figures off the top of my head. I used Archer's projections themselves, and I was able to back work to the cost, price per seat, to fly on Midnight, and then the cost per seat of Midnight. And initially, they're actually running at a loss, and it would be more beneficial to them to sell the craft and have someone else operate it. And it kind of makes me think, is that the sort of business model they're going down? Look, we'll produce them, you operate them. And there even could be like a stipulation in there as we'll take, I don't know, 30% of the profit or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I think it'd be quite interesting to find out as well who's funding the factory or the plant that are making these. Because I'd like to know whether that is going to be Abu Dhabi Aviation or is it going to be Archer. But then obviously if they've funded the plant.
Wait a minute. Martin Lucas, please stop promoting your own channel on our channel. Go on, carry on.
That's bad form. I'd like to know about whether if Abu Dhabi Aviation are building the factory themselves, will that affect the amount of profit that Archer get? Like if they've produced the factory and the costs to like supply the vehicles, then surely they need some sort of discount. And if not, then is that sort of taken away from Archer's like focus on their US market? That's quite a bit of a concern, really, if that is the case, because you'd really want them to be focusing on getting that part certification at the moment. And that sort of does lead me on to what I want to see is the cash burn for this quarter. So sort of speaking there, or touching on the tariffs that we discussed earlier, I want to see what was the effect during this quarter, if there was any. And we did hear that, I think it was Adam that came out last time and said it shouldn't have affected Archer in any way. But you never know. There can be sort of secondary effects on it from a supplier to a supplier. And I want to know, are we still within their target of 95 to 120 million per quarter? Because even though we have got a big cash reserve, we still haven't got the Stellantis $500 million fund. And it can go very quickly within a year, especially if we're not hitting that part certification and we're not gaining any proper revenue.
Something just kicking off in the chat there. Sorry, I was completely thrown off. I think you made a good point there. With the likes of Stellantis, does anyone know, to unlock that 500 million, what is it that is required? Is it like the Toyota where we don't really know?
Nah. And the thing is, on all the earnings calls, they just scoot past it. They discuss it, but we never get to find out what it is. And I do think it must be tied to certification and actual manufacturing which would make sense because that's what they sort of specialize in, actual manufacturing capabilities once they've reached certification.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm actually getting a bit excited now.
It is, yeah.
Do you know when it gets close to that closing bell, it always, I don't know. I just have to keep my eye on it, yeah. And it just makes me think, how much do the institutes know? Yeah, because it seems to be instant. It seems to be like the algorithm just has it. It analyzes it so quick, and next thing you'll just get a catastrophic drop or a massive bump up. And this is why I love to see it. I love to see the massive moves. And this is why I'm going to say again, we do get quite excited, but do not emotionally trade this. No matter what happens, we need to make that clear. We seen it last time. We seen it drop, was it 20% or so?
And I just want to add in there for everyone that after the earnings call, don't worry, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it with the chat, what everyone's feeling. So don't feel like halfway through the earnings call that you want to make a panic trade or anything, because that's what was happening last time. Seen people say I was in $9, now it's down to $6.50 or something like that, and they were like, I've just sold everything. And we said
the best comment of all time. Remember the guy I shared who said we influenced him to buy it, and now it's hurt his wallet. And I was like, I don't think we have ever on this channel, guys, clip it and send it to me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have ever say buy now or sell now.
No,
I don't. I genuinely, hand on heart, don't think we've ever said that.
We've always shown enthusiasm in the stock, and we've always said keep it for. We're not looking at a 3-month window. I think if you're doing that, it's more of a crypto or something like that, and the risk to reward is ridiculous. You need to get a project that you believe in, such as eVTOLs, and then you need to hold on. That's my opinion. That's my not financial advice, but that's what we're doing. And I think we've basically had that same rhetoric since we started.
Am I slow here? Some guy is saying after hours is interesting. To me, after hours is just ticking away as normal. I'd be very interested in the next 15, 20 minutes what's going to happen here. I do expect quite a run or quite a dip. If anything, look, we perform well today. I don't want to rain on the parade, but I do think the performance today is also to do with the America-China deal. If you look across the whole stock market, we all rallied today. So I wouldn't be, I don't know, jumping the gun too early.
I think let's listen to what is said. I think this time more than ever, everyone just listen to the substance of the call and see what points they're hitting on. And I'm pretty sure everyone will be anyway. But afterwards, I'm going to take down a few notes and then we'll make sure we discuss it all.
Well, that's the thing. And guys, please let me know if the press release comes out and we're still talking here. If we're rambling away, make sure to let us know, because we'll get it straight up on the screen. Sometimes we go off on a mad tangent.
That's what everyone's here for.
Sometimes I just need Reese here to just ground me. I actually feel like if I went on a live stream, my own mate, next thing I'd be talking about, do you know what? I actually seen something mad today, yeah? Do you know, they reckon there's a Planet 9, yeah? And they reckon they've, like, found it and all this. Oh, mate, I went down a rabbit hole. But that's the kind of thing I'd end up talking about. But anyway, let's get back to, you're here to talk about Archer. Joby may be ahead in certification and piloted flights, but Archer is not far behind. It looks like, and the Midnight Launch Edition looks good and have a lot of people excited. Do you know what? Before we get into this, I don't want to show...
That does sort of lead me on to... I'm fascinated to see where they are in their park certification, because they're always just lagging slightly behind Joby. But could this be the quarter where they're sort of catching up? And each quarter we do seem to be closing in on that 100%. I think last time it was 21%. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that.
Okay, you're not going to believe this, but the post I was shared of by Archer Daily was actually many that posted it. So this is the piloted flight of the midnight.
This is
Now, don't get too excited. It is them taking off. They are not doing a transitional flight like Joby has. So don't be expecting something massive. However, this is massive for the stock, considering where Archer are perceived to be in comparison to Joby. And I think this is a show of where Archer actually are. So we'll jump straight into it here. So Aussie at the moment. So by all accounts, there's a pilot on this. I have been sent a picture. You can see there's a person there. I thought we took off. Archer Daily, if you're in the chat, would you share it again and make sure the takeoff's in it? Okay, now that's looking nice.
Oh,
that's
Jesus.
A bit of a change.
Yeah,
we're climbing, boys. Now,
I think I saw someone earlier saying about the $13 was going to get hit today. It was a bit of a laugh, and Jesus, at this rate, who knows?
But guys, again, don't be surprised if you see this pump and next thing you see a catastrophic drop.
Yeah.
I got caught out massively early on in Rocket Lab with that. It was around the time of the dilution. And no, it wasn't. It was around the time of the failed flight.
Oh, that was...
And we went up like this, and even at the start of the earnings call, we were up. It was like 20%, and next thing, boom. So yeah, don't emotionally invest. However, 13% is an awful lot.
Yeah.
Markets like saying, guys.
I'd say we need to see what it's like after. Let's not jump the gun and get too excited, get too ahead of ourselves.
Hi, Martin. We are here to support you. Can you not see that? Right, guys. I don't know what's happening here. Guys, you're running your own stream. Would you please just get back to your own channel? So what channel is that? It doesn't matter. Oh. It's exciting. Wish I had some money to buy more. Do you know what? At times like this, you wish you bought in way heavier. Do you know, we said it at the time, and I think we're like every investor around then. All our stocks are so far down that I wasn't willing to sell anything to get in. And I told you guys, I have been stuck in NVIDIA for a while now because I was doing this strategy where I was like buying and selling NVIDIA at like 5% across like a 3-week period. And I was telling Reese how much money I was making. And next thing, I got planted in at 134 and I'm still in there. By the way, Adam bought a lot of stocks lately for himself. Not sure where he got the cash. He bought like 300 million. That was another interesting thing we reviewed over the quarter was the top 5 holders. And retail.
We could probably do another one now after finding out that. That means there must be something we're about to hear in this earnings call. You wouldn't double. I'm pretty sure it was 300 million he had in before, or it's a while ago now. So don't all hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure he must have doubled it.
I'm just gonna time out that guy. Why did you delete your? What time did they do the report? Let me see.
I'm pretty sure last time it was 9:30, so I think we've still got another 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm nearly certain.
Because I remember we had about half an hour then before, obviously.
We're not out yet, are we? Guys, please let me know. I don't think we're out yet, but if I'm wrong, let me know. Okay, back on same live time with everyone. Welcome back, Dylan.
I think this is, I don't know about everyone else, but this is starting to feel quite real now. It feels like we're getting, especially now with like the videos coming out, you're actually seeing it. I know we didn't get to see it take off there, but I believe Liam when he's seen that it's taken off. But yeah, it's feeling optimistic, and it's so funny how a green day will change your mood completely. Because I remember we left the last earnings call, and I feel like we all felt like we had a few kicks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm coming into this one with a beaming smile. I don't know if it's because it was hot over here or what, but yeah, I'm very excited for this now. And then obviously we're looking at what aftermarket's telling us, and I just hope it's not going to be a great surprise.
What time is the call for Archer? So this can be hard for me to work out for you. Where we are GMT, and it'll be 10 p.m. here. I do not know it. It's an hour after the closing bell. For your information, not my video. Someone from Reddit shared it. Okay, thank you so much. It was straight from your page, so thank you for sharing it on X, mate.
Do you know what we could do? We could probably put it into the X community chat afterwards. So if you do want to see that video, make sure you join that. I think it's at the beginning of the chat.
We're going, boys. Do you know what? I'm surprised we haven't actually dropped drastically, and it's given me very, very good indications that we're in for some solid news. Reese, would you be able to keep an eye to see is the press release out?
Yep.
May have beat on earnings per share by 0. Well, that indicate why we're pumping nicely. Up over $1 after hours.
I think we just want to reiterate.
Sorry.
Want to reiterate the make sure nobody's emotionally investing. As we said before, we obviously go. This is the complete opposite. But just because it's up, don't be jumping in thinking you're missing out. It's basically the complete opposite of last time.
Do you know what? It's times like these, and this is what's going to show, like, we are by no means experts. At times like this, you can't help but get that feeling like, why didn't I go in heavier?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I get it the whole time. Like, because we're here every day watching it, it's like, we knew it was going to happen, mate.
It's a bit like,
you said it to me today with the Trump and the China, and you were like, but we knew it was going to happen. We knew there was going to be a deal.
Yeah, like the whole financial system wasn't going to collapse, just to prove a point. Obviously, I do think it's going to go down to the wire with the actual official deal, but unfortunately, that's part of negotiations. And I think that's probably something we should all probably bear in mind is the closer it does get to that 90-day cutoff, that we could see a bit of a pullback whilst there's a bit of fear and panic in the market. But don't worry, I'll have trimmed off my 20% by that point, so I'll be all right.
ML, please stay away. I've seen you do that to other channels, not cool. Do you know what? Me and Reese will just be me and Reese. We'll focus on ourselves.
I think that's enough. We won't. I think we need to move on from that now. We won't even.
Yeah, we won't even acknowledge it. That's awesome, Ken and Scholes. Yes, numbers are out. Okay. Let me quickly get them for you. Do you know what? Is there any big news, guys? I'm excited for this one now. We're out.
Let's bring it up. This is what everyone's been waiting for.
Mate, it's looking good. It's looking really good. Let me get the... Right, so... We're looking at shareholder letter. So, going across the highlights. They plan to deliver the first Midnight aircraft to the UAE in the coming months for its planned deployment later this year to support these launch efforts. They've recently secured the design approval for that first hybrid heliport in the UAE located in Abu Dhabi. And that was the one I was talking about. They look to have 8 to 10 heliports in this. And I think what they initially plan on it being is rolling out with helicopters first, and then slowly integrating it in to convert it to a full-on vertiport. New launch edition customers. So we know they signed Abu Dhabi Aviation and Ethiopian Airlines. Yeah. Do you think the Ethiopian airline was a big deal, or would you have preferred them to focus on where they were going initially?
I feel like at the moment they've got their fingers in many pies. They've got 1 or 2 places now in multiple continents, which could scream that they're trying to take over. And as long as it's all successful and obviously that they're actually being able to get commercial revenue from it, what is the problem? In my eyes, I think the more revenue they're getting in during this phase of development, research and development, the better. There's an interesting part here, but I think we should go down to the AI partnership with Palantir. So any of you that didn't know, I think we discussed it earlier on in the stream. We have forged a foundational partnership with Palantir to build artificial intelligence for the future of next-gen aviation technologies. Our plans include the development of next-gen software utilizing AI to improve range of aviation systems. And I think we've discussed this before, but I could see far further down the line there'll be no longer pilots and the AI will be navigating. I can see honestly,
that. Like, we've seen Elon himself come out and say, like, he wants air traffic control to be run predominantly by AI. You can see air traffic control going AI. And what's easier for AI to communicate with? Other AI or human pilots that can make human error.
That's what they're saying about Tesla at the moment, aren't they? That the full self-driving model doesn't work because of the human element. And then if it's the 2 AIs,
what some Egypt will come out and do. Like, I'm not being funny. Like, it doesn't matter how good your AI is. Yeah, if some donkey comes out of the pub after having 10 pints and drives down the road, you can't anticipate that.
No.
So New York Air Taxi Network with United. Now, this was a massive one for the quarter, and I think everyone will agree with me on this. But again, the likes of the Palantir and the likes of the New York Air Taxi, I think people were very surprised when they seen this, but they had previously spoken about these things. So they recently hosted an event in New York City with United Airlines to share their plans to connect Manhattan with nearby airports using their Midnight. The goal of allowing customers to replace 1 to 2 hour drives with flights that take 5 to 50 minutes, potentially saving hours versus sitting in traffic. And if you haven't seen it, guys, we're not going to get down into the exact prices of these. We have done a video on it, so we're just going to move straight on. So the total cash positions surpassed 1 billion, which is leading the industry. That's
a big point there, leading the industry. Is that a little sly dig, do you think?
Has to be. Like, they're fully aware of each other. I just want to answer one question here. Do you all live in America or the UK? Where are you all from? So I am from the Republic of Ireland,
And
and
then,
Reese is from the UK.
yeah,
So quarter one capital raise further strengthened their balance sheet and helped enable execute their early commercial deployment opportunities. And this is exactly what we're saying. Sometimes capital raises are not all negative. Over the short term investors, it is an absolute kick in the shins
yeah,
when a company dilutes. However, when you have a plan that you want to execute and you're not falling fundamentally, we're going to quote Virgin Galactic in that. Capital raises, there's nothing wrong with them. If anything, they're a positive sign.
yeah.
When it's done at the right price. If it's done while the company's going down, nah, don't get
Well,
involved in that.
the other thing is it just gives you a longer runway. So that research and development phase and getting that commercialization rolled out, it will just give you more time. That's all it is, really. And as long as it's done correctly and doesn't absolutely bomb the stock, then I'm all here for it as a long-term investor.
Yeah. And then the quarterly spend was on target, which, do you know what? Considering they got all that done and the manufacturing facility up and running, the fact that they're on target, that's actually quite
That's
positive.
it's,
Over
it's
Q1 25, spending landed within their guided range and included strategic investments to support the company's growth trajectory. Now let's get on to the interesting stuff. So in the UAE, the launch is on track. So they have their aircraft delivery, which is scheduled in the coming months. They're paving their regulatory pathway with the GCAA, and their Midnight simulator has been delivered to Etihad Aviation Training for their pilot training. This is one thing that I think some of the bears really jump in on is these simulation flights.
yeah.
Are you happy enough seeing all these simulations going, or is it only really materialistic once you see the actual aircraft in flight?
No, I think because this has been used to train the pilots. So you want them to, I think with planes and stuff, they have to have thousands of hours of flight experience before they start.
Yep.
So I can't imagine eVTOL is you can only just have a few hours, have a go on it, and it's not like driving a digger or something. you've got. I want them to be training on this simulator from now until we reach part certification. Like
Yeah, a bit like the F1 drivers, or what would the guy
exactly,
NASCAR? Yeah,
exactly the same. Like you just need the experience, and the only way to get that is through hours and hours and hours and hours of training. And if they can do it on that, even better.
talking about it, before we get into it, me and my girlfriend are mad into Formula One, and do you know what? I'd love to get one of those simulators. But anyway, let's get back to it. Government support. Go on.
Oh yeah, for just get sidetracked one last time. The for our Christmas drinks at work, we went out to an F1 simulator. It was class. Very difficult. Yeah, it was difficult though. If you went into the fully manual, it's impossible. I don't know how they do it, to be honest, but it was really good.
Do you know what? We could get them flying the eVTOLs.
Yeah, that's it. We need to find the simulator one.
So, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office accelerated the air taxi launch. This is the kind of moves I want to see being done by the US government towards the FAA. You want to see the government putting that pressure on the FAA to get it certified.
I don't know if they're,
don't want it certified too quick.
I don't know if they're in any position at the moment to do that though after recent circumstances that have happened. Moving on.
So Piastri will be champion. I'm a Red Bull man. Operating partner. So the first launch edition customer, Abu Dhabi Aviation, is to integrate the Midnight into the existing air traffic operations. And we're not going to get too bogged down on that. With the launch infrastructure being built, so the UAE's first hybrid heliport conversion approved by the GCAA, and it's on track to be electrified later this year. And this is where I would like to see where they can use this sort of knowledge and bring it across to the likes of Los Angeles, to your redundant helipads. So the launch edition customers, they've announced the launch edition program in February 2025, and it's an effort to create a scalable commercialization framework for safely deploying aircraft in early adopter markets, enabling the company to demonstrate the capabilities of Midnight, drive public acceptance, build operational experience, and generate early revenue. And that's exactly what I thought. Really, what they're doing, they're slapping these names over them to build the trust from the public, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're untrustworthy, but you're much more likely to fly on something that says United Airlines than if it says the Hustle Brothers on the side of it, because you've never heard the Hustle Brothers fly it. But if you slap a United Airlines or Ethiopian Airlines on the side of it, it's much more trustworthy.
Yeah.
Then I also think it's to do with, again, the scalability. These companies, it'll be down to them to build this infrastructure, really. And I think it's an easy way to scale up without having to outlay it all financially on yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, the companies then get a benefit of being able to run these, and you probably don't get the revenue of running these, but you've sold the aircraft. But at the moment, they just need public adoption and the ability to scale up massively. Once the Midnight is recognized, then we can start looking at becoming Archer Aviation air taxi service.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I think we need to concentrate on getting the aircraft out and then getting the public to actually accept them.
Yeah.
No, your thoughts on that?
No, I think, to be honest, it wasn't actually the avenue that I was thinking when they were doing that. I thought this was just trying to generate revenue. But we did say one of the biggest stumbling blocks that can become of eVTOLs is that market adoption, and a trusted name in Africa, in Asia, in the US. Fair play. I got to say, like, there is just a lot of the marketing side of Archer that it's sort of why I've sort of leaned more towards them lately. And like another one, just I take my hat off. And there's a reason why I'm sitting here and Adam's running Archer. So
But remember the last Joby live stream, we didn't do the most recent one, but the one before, weren't you going to be the next spokesman for Joby? I heard you had your application in.
Oh,
so how did you get on with it?
Oh, there wasn't many in it. But
and you're still sitting here with me.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't want it to ruin my reputation.
So, with the Abu Dhabi Aviation, in addition to the aircraft, they plan to provide them with the team of pilots, technicians, and engineers to support their early operation to ensure a safe and efficient deployment. But again, this is it. They're able to scale up with only supplying them basically with the likes of your staff, while Abu Dhabi Aviation actually finance the whole infrastructure. And I think it is a very, very, very smart move by Archer.
And so find out all the problems through ADA and obviously Ethiopian Airlines. You're going to you're going to find out a lot of problems that you haven't had to take the cost on. And at this point, they can't really be bearing these unforeseen costs. And then they can just bring it across and then use it in the US market. Excellent. All right.
And the thing is, if there's a problem with, say, an Ethiopian airline Midnight or United Airlines Midnight, they're going to try their utmost to help you fix the problem as quick as possible. And because whether that comes to help them finance it, they're going to get it done because they don't want their name torn down.
The newspaper won't say Archer, it would say United Airlines, and then it'd have Archer afterwards. Good. That's very good.
So, with Ethiopian Airlines being Africa's largest air carrier, and it's a Star Alliance member, they were the second customer. There we go. I have an assistant there. While the two companies will primarily focus on developing an air taxi network in the region, they'll also explore other use cases, including ecotourism, which again, we can. People are going to hate me for saying this, but they're then competing with the likes of eHang with their tourism side, which, look, there's no problem in that. And similarly to the ADA, they're planning to provide Ethiopian Airlines with a team of pilots, technicians, and engineers. So it seems to be that is what this launch edition is doing. They're going to supply you with basically the fundamentals to help you get started and train you up and get going. But you're more or less taking on
The
the
infrastructure.
aircraft as your baby.
Yeah.
So then I'm interested with this one. So with Palantir, for decades, the aviation industry has made only incremental improvements constrained by legacy technology and dormant duopoly in commercial aviation. I wonder who they're hinting at. With the rapid acceleration of AI, as well as a breakthrough in disruptive electric propulsion, the industry is now poised for change. In March, they forged a strategic partnership with Palantir to build an AI foundation for the future of next generation aviation technology. This is what still confuses me is I can't see where the partnership is. Like, isn't this what Palantir does?
Yeah, that is exactly what Palantir does. But like
Like,
the one
it's
thing I
like
would
me
say,
saying I'm in a partnership with Walmart for
yeah,
getting all my groceries to me
groceries.
on a day-to-day basis. Like,
The one thing it
this
does
is what
make me
Palantir
question.
does.
What does make me question though is that can Joby beat Palantir in terms of like an AI system? Because
Not a chance.
surely this is what Palantir do. They do the management systems, they develop the AI, and obviously Joby want to do everything internally. So are they going to be able to compete with their own individual AI system, or are they going to end up trying to see what Palantir are doing? But that sort of goes against their vertically integrated approach. It's just food for thought, really. I was just thinking that there, what's they said about the duopoly.
I want to give the guys a thought here too. The only thing that I do think Joby may have an influence over, so I believe that Palantir is unbelievable at getting the infrastructure in place and all that. But Joby have Uber. And Uber have more or less done what these are attempting to do, only like on the ground, terrestrially. But they have done it. They have created a framework where they can create a taxi network that runs efficiently and that everyone is already familiar with. So I would be very surprised to see Archer be added to Uber if Uber are so heavily invested in Joby. It'd be like, I can see Uber going forward once Robotaxi comes out. Uber will probably remove Teslas from
almost
to be
definitely.
direct competition. So
100%.
why would, if they're going to do that, why would they add Archer to it? And that's the only thing that does scare me, because look, you can build your app, you can do everything you want, but I can tell you 90% of the people on here know what Uber is, and I'd say 80% probably have it on their phone.
And I've used it recently.
And you're probably more likely. And the thing is with an Uber, like, you could probably book it and it'll pick you up from your house, drive you to the vertiport. It links in perfectly with an eVTOL taking off. You go, and next thing, another Uber's waiting for you, and away you go. And it's all seamless, it's streamlined. Whereas if not, you have to like order a taxi, then on another app, like it's like a train timetable going to the airport, man. Trust me. Me and Reese went to Barcelona once. Let me tell you a story. No, do you know what? I better keep going with this. Now's not the time. They plan to initially leverage Palantir's Foundry and AIP to support the scaling of their aircraft manufacturing capabilities. So at the moment, we're not really hearing anything that we haven't heard before. In parallel, they would work to develop software to the next gen of critical aviation systems, including movement control and route planning. So there's nothing like they haven't really added anything there.
No.
So it
it's
is at the moment looking like it was their financials that was more or less drove the stock flying. And let me double check where we're sitting at. We're still sitting 5.18% up. So this was a big one over the quarter, guys. So the New York City air taxi network with United. So their shared vision is to connect Manhattan using their midnight to dramatically reduce travel times compared to traditional ground transportation and helping avoid cities' notorious traffic.
I would like to know what that journey length was or is at
The
the
only
moment.
thing that worries me about these, is I agree the actual journey will, but at the moment, okay, what is that? Is there 9 vertiports there or so? Say you have 10 midnight in each of them, yeah?
Yeah.
Max, if you're all flying, you can have up 360 people flying because there's 4 per midnight. So there's 9 of them, 10 aircraft, and then there's 4
Okay.
people can go on the aircraft. So 360 people can be flying at any one time. New York City, guys, can someone jump across and tell me what's the population of New York City? I can have a bet there's more than 360 people moving in a yellow cab or a yellow taxi at any one time. I just think they're saying that the journey time will be 10 to 15 or 5 to 15 minutes or however long. But what about the wait time in the vertiport? What about the security in the vertiport? Like, are you going to be waiting an hour in your vertiport until your flight can take off? And then you may as well have just jumped in a car. And then what are the facilities going to be like in the vertiport? Are you going to have the likes of a Starbucks or something like that where you can...
I think that might be, that seems it would be far. I'm presuming it's going to be much like a train station. Do you know, like you just tap your oyster, you go through, and then you just wait 3 minutes and then a train comes. Like,
But
very
that's the
similar.
thing. It's not going to be like that because you need so many aircraft.
Yeah, well, it would be the
the infrastructure up and running.
I could see it being like that though in terms of
eventually, 100%.
metal detector and obviously the scanner to go through.
There'd be no beers on the flight, mate. You will book your flight ahead of time as part of.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think you would be booking it. You turn up.
It'd be pre-booked and you turn up. That it does make sense.
But then you're always going to get someone that's going to be late, aren't you? So there'll be like some delays.
It's one of those supply and demand too. Are you happy that they've more or less put out what price they're going to do it at? Wouldn't you like them to keep tweaking the price up until all of a sudden the demand starts slowing down and then sort of find that happy medium rather than saying, look, we're going to do it for this?
Yeah, I think that the price will probably change once it actually comes out. Like plans are easy to make, aren't they? And then once you develop and find out actually the cost was this, I prefer them to have a much higher cost at the start, and just make sure it's a good service and everyone's very happy with it, rather than coming in very low and running at cost or at a loss, like you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so the network is designed to include vertiports that exist in aviation assets around the region. So we heard that earlier on when it comes to Los Angeles, but it's going to be the same here. United previously placed an order for a fleet of Archer midnight aircraft and has remained a long-time investor in the company. And I was reading somewhere they're on about potentially increasing that by another 200 midnight going forward. Now, I would love to see the tranches behind that. What are they requiring Archer to meet for them to unlock another order of 200 midnight.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear on this call, where are they with the Georgia manufacturing facility? Are they still on course to do their 10 to 15 by the end of the year? Or have they tweaked it a little bit? Are they ramping up?
Yeah.
So, look,
Oh, perfect. This is it.
some of you guys are going to think this is boring, but this is probably one of the most important parts. So they're measuring the certification progress. So as discussed before, they're largely focused on the fourth and final phase of certification program and have received FAA approval for 15% of the compliance verification documents. Now that's not 15% of the overall thing. This is 15% of the compliance verification documents. So the FAA has now aligned industry standards addressing total propulsion loss. Now, if any of you are aeronautical engineers, you can give me a quick call after and give me a rundown on what this means. I'm not even going to lie that I know what that means. And these clarified standards, they're expected that do not result in any necessary modifications to the Midnight design. So as they transition into piloted flights and prepare for their formal TIA testing, and we've seen they're already going for their piloted flights, they're expected a marked acceleration of compliance validation with both the FAA and the GCAA regulatory bodies. And I would expect GCAA regulation to go much quicker than the FAA regulation. I do think FAA will be one of the last things. Common.
Yeah, 100%.
Last year, they successfully demonstrated Midnight's ability to safely complete a flight test with a complete shutdown of one of the engines. And that is their redundancy system. They're proving that all safety systems work. And they're showcasing the redundancy they get from their proprietary 12-6 configuration. The photo below is from this test where the aircraft performed flawlessly, executing smooth transition and landing without power to the outermost tilt engine, exactly as designed. The safe and successful testing of the Midnight is what gives them the confidence in their path ahead on early deployments and FAA certification. Reese, does this give you confidence that we're going to get FAA certification any quicker than...
It seems like we seem to be on track, but like it's saying a lot without saying much, if you know what I mean. I'd like to hear in the earnings call, because I know for a fact that if it's not addressed by Adam straight away, it will definitely be addressed with the questions at the end. And just getting a feel, obviously we got the 15% there, but the remainder doesn't say it's going to be by the end of the year or it's going to be in the next. It's telling us we're progressing, which is good. And there's a lot of positive news there, but I'm not really sure where that leaves us. Where has that moved the needle for you?
Not really. Honestly, I said it before. You can update me and update me and update me and update me, but we're not really getting much substantial updates. Like, these are the kind of things you sort of expect to happen along a flight test path. It doesn't really, as an investor, this doesn't excite me as such. Now, maybe it should, but I'm telling you, from the average retail investor, this... I'm going to be very careful what I say, but it's a bit more like fluff to me. Just sort of like...
There's a reason why it's page 7.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee when we get part certification, it'll be page 1. It'll be the first page. In bold letters, we got it. But yeah, like, is what it is.
So, upcoming events, Make It Emirates, Paris Air Show. Do you know what, guys? We're going to carry on from that. The fleet of the future with United. So, we'll look at the financial overview. Now, we're going to do a quick rundown on this. And what we're going to do, I think you done a really nice video on both Joby and Archer last time after the earnings, where you sort of broke them down for the layman and you compared them to each other. But going as of today, the total operation expenses are 144 million. And if you compare that to even 12 months ago, it's 142.2. So we are slightly ticking upwards, but we're still along the same lines. The net loss is minus 93.4 million, which is down in comparison to the previous year. But look,
Positive. But then
I feel like at the moment, you can't really dig too much into the financials when it comes to the operational expenses until we get up and running. I feel like it's a pinch of salt to me, as long as we're not heavily nosediving. It's a pinch of salt to me at the moment. The non-GAAP total operation expenses are 133.1 million, which is up on the previous year on 89.1. The adjusted EBITDA is minus 109 million, which is up again from 86.8 million.
Mm.
The most important thing, I think, is that over $1 billion in cash and cash equivalents. And that was due to the dilution over the last quarter. We're gaining cash at an astronomical rate as we're coming into commercialization. If we compare that to the previous year, we've gained about 150% on it. Do you think $1 billion will be enough to get them to where they need to go commercially, or would you expect more dilution coming forward?
I'd like to hear in this call now. It depends, doesn't it? If it's like another 3 or 4 quarters, then absolutely we can definitely get this part certification, and then you imagine there'll be more investment, so we'll definitely get there. But if we're talking 8, 9, at that point, no, we wouldn't. But from the general layman looking at it, you would say it almost definitely should do. And I could see, well, based on where Adobe are at the moment and the fact that they're only probably another 2-3 months behind, I would be hoping it's going to be by the end of the year, if not the financial year.
Do you know what? I don't really want to go too heavily into the financial of this, just because we haven't read it previously. And I don't want people thinking we've an agenda. So what I want to do, I want to listen to the call. And then if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to do another video on the actual financials?
Yeah, I'll do a similar one.
And Archer and seeing where we are in comparison to previous quarter and also previous year.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be quite a good one to look at and just see the development we've had in the last year. Still looking quite healthy. Coming up to this call now, which I'm expecting in the next 10 minutes.
How are you feeling going into this, honestly?
Well, the news so far has been very good. I think we've had a bit of a mixed bag there, but it's all information we've had previously. But the main points to come away from this obviously are what is happening with the part certification, how we're getting along with it, the piloted flights. I'd like to know. This would be. I think this is a bit of a pipe dream, but if they did mention the Olympics, that would be a big one for me, or the World Cup, or the Super Bowl. It would just feed into my sort of.
Do you know what? I need one of those like mystic balls if they mentioned the Olympics in here.
Yeah.
They ain't.
But yeah, I'm feeling good. What about you? How are you feeling going into it? A bit apprehensive?
I'm apprehensive, and I'll tell you why. There's nothing we've heard there that we didn't know about an hour ago.
And the price is up.
And the price is soaring up. I just feel like one slip up. It's always in the question and answers. I feel like this whole eVTOL industry is in the Q&A at the very end where the analysts ask them,
the hard hitting
quite
questions.
stringent
Really,
questions, to be fair
Yeah.
to them. I don't know. Some people say they're pre-prepared. Some people say it's off the cuff.
I don't know if it's pre-prepared because I've heard like, well,
Some very shady answers.
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if it was pre-prepared, that was a terrible recollection of the question, because I've heard like stumbling and likes and all this. Yeah.
So, excited for this call. Do they usually add color or stick to the letter contents? That is a very good point. We've seen it happen both ways. We have seen a very short call with both Archer and Joby where they more or less stick to the contents and that's it. However, the last few, they have started adding quite a bit of color to it. However, that's what we're talking about. That's where they start tripping themselves up in
I think it's easier to do once you're in your
timelines, and it gets people quite worried. And that's why I want to reiterate again before this call: do not, no matter what happens on the stock price, do not emotionally invest. Do you know what? One thing before we get into this, I want to welcome Haze Club.
100%.
This is our co-host in our Rocket Lab live streams, but he has mentioned a good point. He thinks the eVTOL is still early and expect military contracts to dominate early on. That's one thing we haven't talked about. The hybrid VTOL. I want to hear more about Andril. It was the big speaking point last quarter.
It's sort of died a death, isn't it? It's died a death. I haven't heard anything more. The obviously that was one of the main selling points on the last report. But yeah, I haven't heard anything really of it.
They felt like all last quarter was military, and this is all commercialization.
Yeah. The
I
don't know. Did Joby like sort of throw them off by saying that we delivered two to the Edwards Air Force Base, and then they don't feel like they can match that? Where does the CEO see us going for? That's a good.
Andrew is going public soon, and that
Liam's
is
going
one
to be one
thing.
of the first buyers. He's adamant on this.
I need to get into Andrew. Like, I honestly think Andrew is going to be up there with the likes of Lockheed Martin. I am in on Andrew. Andrew, Palantir, and Archer is just a trinity. How are you feeling about Andrew? Will you be jumping in at IPO?
No, I don't really like an IPO. For me, I'll sit and wait. I've seen too many.
We've played around with IPOs before, and
they skyrocket, and then after a few months, you end up plummeting down, and then you have to wait years then to get your money back. So, yeah, for me, I let everyone else have the fun, and then I'll wait to see where it goes, and then maybe jump in.
You can commiserate me when it all goes wrong, but
yeah.
Look, me and Manny will be the first at the door, mate. I'll meet you there, brother. Dylan Rogers, feeling excited, even though we know it's pre-revenue. And remember, if you didn't follow Archer before this could be a lot of new info for the newer investors. And the thing is, guys, if you haven't been in Archer previously, you need to... What is your goal? Is it you're waiting until commercialization? Because if you are, you could be waiting. I'm going to be dead honest. You could be waiting up on 12 months. If you're looking at the long term, I do think it is quite a long term. The amount they need to scale up, like even at max capacity that they're saying can be pumped out of the Covington, Georgia factory, they're saying about 650 Midnight aircraft. 650, if you compare that to the amount of like cars that Tesla pump out per year, it's laughable. So the amount that is actually needed is they're going to have multiple manufacturing facilities, and it will take a long time. Do I think they'll get there? 100% I do. I wouldn't be in it if I didn't. And trust me, I wouldn't be staying up at 10 o'clock for an earnings call if I genuinely didn't think they were going to get there. But you do have to sort of look at it. by no way, and I think we seen that last time, lots of people are getting into this meme sort of craze because they thought
It's because of the video, wasn't it?
it was that roaring kitty. I was about to say something there. Fella that pumped it. I just nah. Reese, I just want to say before this earnings call, well done for getting this far. Me and Reese had quite a bit of imposter syndrome coming back onto these lives because we hadn't been live in 3 weeks. If you weren't here before the stream, I think we mentioned it to 20 people. We lost a very close member to our family, and that's why it was more or less radio silence. We more or less had to drop everything, and we haven't been in the right headspace to get back on live. We were going to go back Friday, but we thought there was no better time to meet you here where we can explain it all. But Reese, we've done it. We've made it to the earnings.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Guys, give me your last thoughts on what is going happening. Do you think we will be green after the call? Do you think we'll open green tomorrow? Or are we going to get a repeat of what happened last time? Let me know. Line phones behind me, Andrew. I'm telling you, we're going to get Reese in on this. We're going to be an Andrew channel as well, mate. You're going to have to get involved.
To be honest, I'll be interested.
You're going to go into Andrew too.
I'm interested to see it now. The fact so many of you are rallying behind it.
I'm telling you, I actually didn't realize how bullish people were on Andrew. I knew quite a few people were, but it seems to be since that Archer defense came out, more and more people have researched it, and oh my god. I have taken to Archer as they were always leaned in both commercial and government services to bring the door. Archer is not Palantir, but I like the business model of both streams of revenue. Okay. I genuinely do think Dylan has made an unbelievable point there. You get comparisons an awful lot that Archer is going to be the next Palantir-like stock. And again, as Dylan says there, Archer and Palantir are completely, they're two different businesses. It's like comparing Coca-Cola with Tesla. But maybe not that extreme. But like, I wouldn't get bogged down in... I think people try and get bogged down too much in comparing stocks together.
No, I don't know. I have a thing with IPO. yeah.
And a kebab.
But really funny. yeah. Now we'll have to see how it plays out and see what sort of price it would be coming in at.
Reese, can I let you jump in on the comments line? I'm just going to prepare this call.
Yeah, 100%. So I think running up, we've got Randy Williams here. So Randy doesn't think that they can say anything on the call that is really going to move the market. I think some certain news that can come out can do it, but I can see what he means about it directly. They can't just rally it up and then try and sell it off. Obviously, that'd be illegal. Here, the Hayes Club is saying that Dylan, I think you would like Rocket Lab. It's just as fun. I think it's.
I need to jump in there. Dylan, you really need to get into Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is just a serious banner. Even if you're not investing in it, Rocket Lab is just.
Yeah, and I do think it would be really up your street. 100%. We've got Dylan at many. That's why I like following it so closely. It is, of course, a spec play, but if I study them day by day, I feel like being surprised by failure has less of a chance. Is this it?
Guys, I'm just going to do a test at the moment. Tell me if you can hear the music.
I can hear it. I'll let the chat.
Just let me know if you could hear that music there, guys.
Mithras says, hell yeah. Terry asked me, what is it going to take? I don't know. For me, I stay away from IPOs. I like to have a bit of a track record before I start.
Would you invest in them, though, after APR?
Possibly. I'll see how it's going. I need to get a bit more of an understanding. I quite like tracking the history and sort of getting a feel. I want to have a bit more information.
I am very into, like, this is mad, but, like, because Rocket Lab can be government-based and they can have their military side, and now Archer has it, it's kind of like, do you know what? Why not have a stock that is very heavily that as well?
Yeah. Especially the way the military is going at the moment.
Okay, Jack needed music, which is all good.
Perfect. Turner Rents. It's pretty clear that Archer will be the first mover in this new market. What do you think about that?
I still think Joby is going to get there first.
I
can have 234 people jump at me now and say, I do think Joby will be there first. Do I think they'll scale up as quick? I think Archer will probably outpace them.
Yeah.
But I do think Joby will be there first. I
think you've seen that. You've seen that in terms of when both of them were founded.
Yeah.
There's just a much shorter time span. They're much more aggressive, and that's sort of the way that they've sort of taken the market. So I can't see why they would stop now once they get to commercialization. It'll be very similar. Dylan Rogers says, I feel like we are going to walk away knowing what we knew. If we learn something that the community of Hustle Brothers Hustle Bros haven't on Discord, I would be surprised. I would be shocked, to be honest.
But that's the thing. We're starting to get to that stage where it's the anticipation of this stuff, and we've already covered it, and it's like a bit of an anticlimax when we get there. It's like, fair enough.
That's what the first few were so fun.
Thank you for joining Archer's earnings call. This is Eric Lentell, Archer's General Counsel. During today's call, we will be making forward-looking statements. These statements are based on assumptions as of today, and we undertake no obligation to update them as a result of new information or future events. There are risks and uncertainties that may cause our actual results to differ materially from those contemplated. For more information about these risks and uncertainties, please refer to the risk factors in our SEC filings. Today, we will also be discussing both GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures. A reconciliation of those financial measures is included in today's shareholder letter and earnings release. And now I'll turn it over to Adam. Adam?
Thanks, Eric. All right, let's dive in. Archer's pushing the boundaries of what's possible and reshaping the future of aviation for years to come. Today, we're going to talk about how we're making that future happen. As I've talked about before, 2025 is an inflection point for Archer. On the commercial front, after years of engineering work and flight tests, the team is focused on transitioning to piloted operations and early commercial deployment. We remain on track to launch later this year in the UAE and are preparing for subsequent deployments with Midnight, Launch Edition customers, and several other international markets. The Archer Defense team is deeply integrated with their counterparts at Anduril through our exclusive partnership to build the next generation hybrid electric VTOL for the US and its allies. All of this is complemented by the work we are doing to build an AI-based aviation software platform of the future in partnership with Palantir. Our progress speaks for itself, but it's made even clearer by the caliber of the companies who have chosen to partner with us. Anduril selected Archer to jointly shape the next generation of defense aviation. Palantir chose Archer to pioneer AI-driven aviation technologies. And soon we'll be announcing what I think will be one of the industry's most important partnerships. Stay tuned. Today, I'll share more about this quarter's progress and what you can expect to see over the remainder of 2025. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, our number one goal remains to bring Midnight safely to market as quickly as possible. This is the impetus behind our Launch Edition program. We are doing something that has not been done in decades, bringing a new type of aircraft to market. The launch program creates a scalable commercialization framework for safely deploying aircraft in early adopter markets. The goal is for us to demonstrate the aircraft's capabilities, drive public acceptance, build operational excellence, and generate early revenue. We remain on track to deliver our first piloted aircraft as part of that program to Abu Dhabi Aviation in the UAE later this year. We've already started the flight test program for that aircraft here in California, and we expect piloted flights to begin in the coming days. I think it is important to revisit how we got here. We started with Maker, a sub 5,000-pound aircraft with a 40-foot wingspan. It was clear to us the size of that aircraft platform would not support the payload necessary for the business case, so we chose not to take that aircraft through to certification and mass production. Instead, we designed and built Midnight around the same configuration, but scaled up to 6,500 pounds with a 50-foot wingspan. We believe the industry will consolidate around that size of aircraft in order to support a pilot plus 4 passenger payload. The second key decision we made was to shift away from pouch cells, which we used in Maker, to cylindrical cells used in Midnight's battery pack. We made this decision for multiple reasons, but primarily because of the concerns about the safety and reliability of the pouch cells that were available when we were building Maker, and because the readily available sources were Chinese suppliers. Those concerns obviously would have presented a number of problems from a safety, certification, defense, and tariff perspective. That's what led to our decision to partner with Molicel on an aviation-specific variant of their cylindrical cell that offers both high power and energy density, while also being exceptionally safe, reliable, and scalable. This has been key to putting us in a position to certify our battery pack and scale our powertrain manufacturing. This cylindrical cell is being used by others across the industry, including Beta. The advantage we, the FAA, Molicel, and Beta get from this joint effort is the sharing of test and reliability data across programs. We were deliberate about both of these choices, as aviation has long design and development cycles, and the need to redesign for these types of reasons can result in years of delay. Focusing on a commercially viable product has been core to the mission of Archer. The aircraft testing we have been doing leading up to our planned early deployment in the UAE is critical for ensuring safety, and it's just one of the facets of the larger team effort we have underway in the UAE to support our launch plans. In addition to the aircraft, our team is working with local government and industry partners across the other 5 key building blocks for launch. Building block number 1, government support. The government of Abu Dhabi has been incredibly helpful in launching in the UAE. In particular, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office and 2 of the country's largest sovereign wealth funds, which have invested in Archer. Building block number 2, regulatory pathway. This support from ADIO and those investors has helped us forge a great partnership with the nation's regulator, the GCAA, to carve out a regulatory framework to certify Midnight. Our teams are collaborating through joint working sessions in both UAE and California, and the GCAA is closely tracking all the progress we are making with Midnight as they work with us on the pathway to begin flying passengers in country. Building block number 3, operating partner. Earlier this year, we announced that Abu Dhabi Aviation, the region's largest helicopter operator, was signing on to be our first Launch Edition customer. Over the last quarter, our teams have been working together hand in hand to map out our initial network operations within the country. We are close to having alignment on the first dozen nodes, and we'll be sharing more on this soon. Building block number 4, pilot training. Archer and ADA are working together with Etihad, one of the world's leading operators of aviation training, to recruit and train pilots and prepare local MRO facilities. In fact, we just delivered the first Midnight flight simulator to Etihad. The plan is for it to reside at their headquarters in Abu Dhabi as we are jointly training pilots for our aircraft in the region. Building block number 5, infrastructure. Finally, we're collaborating with numerous partners to ready a handful of Abu Dhabi's 70+ existing helipads for eVTOL operations. This is an example of how we can rapidly stand up takeoff and landing infrastructure without significant spend or regulatory work. Stay tuned for a lot more excitement to come as we continue to gain momentum in the UAE. Other potential early adopter markets are taking stock of what they are seeing from us in the UAE, and we're seeing demand in a number of other countries for our Launch Edition program. For example, earlier this quarter, we announced our second Launch Edition customer, Ethiopian Airlines, one of United's key partners in the Star Alliance, with the plan being to establish UAM's first foothold in East Africa's rapidly growing aviation market. Expect to see more of these strategic partnerships from us. In parallel to our tremendous progress overseas, we continue to see strong momentum here in the US. Just last month in New York City, we jointly hosted an event with United, bringing together key regulatory, municipal, and industry leaders to unveil our shared vision for our initial New York City network. Thank you to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, as well as the New York Economic Development Council for their continued support and partnership. As a longtime New Yorker, I'm deeply passionate about the impact our Midnight aircraft could have on the commutes for those who live in and visit Manhattan. We designed our network to take advantage of the existing aviation infrastructure in the New York area, including all 3 major international airports, Manhattan's 3 urban heliports, including the newly dubbed downtown Skyport, and important regional hubs such as Teterboro and Westchester. To support our launch plans, we continue to ramp up manufacturing across our facilities in Silicon Valley and Georgia, both of which are now fully operational. I look forward to sharing more milestones as we continue to scale those capabilities. This quarter, I spent a significant time in Washington, D.C. with senior lawmakers, including Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy and Acting FAA Administrator Chris Rocheleau. Just in the last few weeks, we've had important conversations with key members of the House and Senate leadership, including Senator Ted Cruz, who leads the Congressional Subcommittee on Aviation Safety, Operations, and Innovation, as well as important White House leaders, including Michael Kratsios, Director of the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy. With all the recent announcements from this administration, it is clear that they are committed to rapidly upgrading America's commercial and defense aviation technologies to ensure we retain our global leadership. I'm proud that Archer is in a position to play a leading role in that effort. This comes in the form of ramping up our aircraft manufacturing here in the U.S., safely launching commercial air taxi operations in major cities across the U.S., designing and building the next generation of defense aircraft here in the U.S., and utilizing AI to build the future systems that will power our country's airspace. I'm also grateful that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and his team are supportive of modernizing our fleet through efforts such as our Archer Defense Initiative. We continue to deepen our exclusive partnership with Anduril as we work in earnest to mature the design for our first joint product, a hybrid electric autonomous VTOL that is targeting a program of record. As I've indicated before, because of the nature of this work, I cannot share more at this time, but will as soon as I'm able. What I can share is that this technology's compelling dual-use potential is already attracting significant interest from leaders across both civil and defense sectors. Additionally, we recently executed on 2 strategic acquisitions that we believe will help accelerate Archer Defense. First, we acquired a key IP portfolio from an industry player. Second, we acquired a specialized high-performance composite manufacturing facility tailored for defense applications, significantly strengthening our capabilities. This quarter, we also took a decisive step forward on our software plans, partnering with Palantir to jointly architect the AI foundation for what we believe can be the next generation of aviation systems across manufacturing, operations, movement control, and route planning. This collaboration has the opportunity to be a key contributor to our country's ambitious vision, modernizing our aviation ecosystem in record time so that we can ensure that we continue to safely manage the ever-growing volumes of air traffic we are seeing and lay the foundation for the scale we plan to achieve with urban air mobility. We end Q1 maintaining over $1 billion of liquidity, the highest cash balance in the industry. As I said last quarter, we still remain in the early innings of a generational opportunity. Our team is relentless in its commitment to build. I can't wait to continue to showcase it for all of you. Over to Tom.
I'll kick off with the most exciting news. We're entering the next phase of our Midnight aircraft program, operating with a pilot. We have already begun Midnight's piloted testing as we complete the ground test campaign and are on track to start piloted flights with our latest Midnight aircraft over the next week. This milestone is the culmination of years of effort that has gone into verifying that the hardware and software on our Midnight aircraft are safe to fly with people on board. I'll walk you through what has gone into getting us here, highlighting that most of this testing needs to be done once in advance of piloted flight, rather than being repeated for each airplane we build from here on out. To prepare Midnight for piloted flight, the team first executed an extensive lab and ground test campaign covering all core aircraft functionalities, including high voltage battery and propulsion systems. Over the last couple months, this has included weeks of incremental restrained ground tests, methodically ramping engine power, refining propeller balance, and achieving maximum thrust while the aircraft remained safely tethered. We then moved into ground handling tests, again taking an incremental approach, validating braking, handling, and incrementally increasing speeds towards flight readiness, putting us firmly on track to begin piloted flights imminently. Our test aircraft are extensively instrumented with a custom-built specialized flight test instrumentation system composed of a myriad of sensors and software to capture critical data for testing and certification. For example, we've equipped Midnight with hundreds of strain gauges measuring structural integrity, accelerometers capturing vibration data, and an extensive array of temperature sensors, all supplementing the data gathered by the core systems on the aircraft that will be utilized in normal commercial operations. In total, Midnight now measures over 40,000 data parameters. The ability to capture and process this data is critical to our company testing and certification flight testing. It's crucial to recognize that our transition to the piloted phase of our flight testing program builds upon extensive unmanned and transition testing with Midnight, validating the safety of the aircraft in all stages of flight prior to putting a pilot on board. Over the past several years, we've completed hundreds of Midnight flights, rigorously evaluating everything from crosswind hover performance and complex transition trajectories to severe failure scenarios. Notably, last year, we successfully demonstrated Midnight's ability to complete a flight during a propulsion system shutdown in one of the engines, showcasing the redundancy we get from our proprietary 12 tilt 6 configuration. We shared a photo of that in our shareholder letter today, and we'll soon be sharing footage of that test flight later this week, where you'll be able to see how the aircraft responded to this failure mode, flawlessly performing a smooth transition and landing, exactly as designed. The safe and successful testing of Midnight is what gives us confidence in our path ahead on early deployments and FAA certification, particularly for our upcoming plans with our Launch Edition program in the UAE and other countries. As Adam mentioned, we plan to send one of the aircraft from our California facilities to the UAE later this summer for region-specific testing and deployment later in the year. On the certification front, we've made continued progress alongside the FAA to finalize the remaining compliance areas that I've highlighted in previous quarters. I'm pleased to report the FAA has now aligned industry standards addressing total propulsion loss that's covered in our Rule 2105G. And these clarified standards were as we expected, meaning they do not result in any necessary modifications to Midnight's design. This was not an Archer-specific rule, but rather an industry rule that everyone was waiting for closure on. As we transition into piloted flight and prepare for formal TIA testing, expect a marked acceleration of compliance validation with both the FAA and GCAA regulatory bodies. Scaling up our ability to build aircraft also continues to advance rapidly. We have multiple aircraft being assembled across both our Georgia and California facilities, scheduled to begin piloted flight testing later this year. During our aircraft builds, we have leveraged many of the manufacturing systems we've put together to enable the scaling of our manufacturing, and are taking the time to learn and improve these so that we have a stable foundation to support our production ramp in the future. Lastly, on the new hybrid aircraft program with Anduril, our engineering teams are integrated and working well together. We've recently passed key milestones that give me confidence we're on a great path to build an amazing product. As my 9th eVTOL aircraft under development, this new platform leverages core powertrain and software innovations we've perfected at Archer. We remain bullish on this initiative's potential and believe it can be a substantial component of Archer's business portfolio moving forward. And now I'll turn it over to Priya to talk about the financials for the quarter.
Thanks, Tom. So, as Adam discussed earlier, our focus this year remains on investing in the rapid development and commercialization of our business, while staying disciplined with cash management as we work to get to significant revenue-generating operations as soon as possible. As you know, during the first quarter of 2025, we closed on an additional approximately $300 million of equity capital. That round of financing enabled us to exit Q1 2025 with our highest ever quarter-end balance of $1.03 billion in cash and cash equivalents, putting us in the strongest cash position in our industry. This cash position excludes the additional funding of up to $400 million that Stellantis has preliminarily agreed to fund to support the scaling of Midnight aircraft production. With regards to our spending for the quarter, we maintained strategic investments across three critical focus areas. First, advancing the development, certification, and testing of our Midnight aircraft. Second, scaling our aircraft build capabilities. And third, establishing in-country presence and operational infrastructure in the UAE to support our launch activities there later this year and into next. These investments support our commercialization roadmap. Our Q1 2025 financial results were in line with our guidance. We reported an adjusted EBITDA loss of $109 million, falling within our guided range of $95 to $110 million. This represents a $14.2 million increase from the previous quarter, reflecting planned investments in personnel and material spend for aircraft build and components to support those critical focus areas. Our GAAP operating expenses for Q1 25 were $144 million, which increased $20 million over previous quarter due to the increased headcount and material spend mentioned earlier. This included approximately $30 million of non-cash stock-based compensation. With regards to cash burn, our cash used in operations and investing activities for Q1 25 was $104.6 million. This included approximately $5 million of remaining spend from the work to complete the build-out of our ARC facility, excluding which our quarterly cash burn stayed consistent around the $100 million per quarter estimate as previously discussed. Despite these core investments, we increased our quarter-end cash position by $196 million compared to year-end 2024 and more than doubled our cash balance year over year. Notably, this marks our third consecutive quarter of simultaneously growing our cash reserves while advancing our strategic business objectives. Looking ahead, our 2025 priorities will remain focused on the following key initiatives: advancing Midnight aircraft certification, testing, and manufacturing capabilities, rapidly progressing our defense aircraft and software platform development, and successfully rolling out our Midnight Launch Edition program in the UAE and beyond. We approach these objectives with confidence, backed by exceptional internal talent, strong strategic partnerships, and a secure capital foundation. For the upcoming quarter, Q2 2025, we estimate an adjusted EBITDA loss between $100 to $120 million to support the focus areas I talked about earlier. As highlighted in previous earnings discussions, our strong financial position is enabling us to accelerate strategic investments in these areas, helping us create what we believe is a defensible moat between us and our competition. We are making marked progress on several of these high-value projects, such as the acquisition of the composites-related assets and the IP portfolio acquisition that Adam mentioned earlier. And given the strength of our cash position, we anticipate bolstering our Q2 2025 capital expenditures by approximately $15 to $20 million beyond Q1 25 levels to help strengthen our market leadership position. Our strategic approach to US-based sourcing and manufacturing has significantly shielded us from the current tariff uncertainties affecting global trade. Our domestic-first approach to our supply chain helps us minimize the potential for disruption. We continue actively monitoring policy developments to ensure we can respond appropriately to changes while maintaining business stability and cost efficiency in this developing macroeconomic environment. With that, I'll turn it back over to Adam for Q&A. Adam?
Thanks, Priya. We had a bunch of retail questions that were submitted, but most were answered in the prepared remarks. So after the analyst questions, any of those questions remain, I'll address them at that point. So for now, let's open up the call to Q&A. Operator?
Thank you. If you'd like to queue for a question, you can do so by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad. If for any reason you'd like to remove your question, it's star 2. But again, to join the question queue, please press star 1. It has been asked that you hold yourself to one question with a follow-up question. Our first question is from Andreas Shepard with Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is now open.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for taking our questions and congrats on all the progress. Adam, wanted to maybe touch on launching in the UAE by year end. Just curious if you can maybe help share your vision as to what that might look like. So by now we know, some of the hybrid heliports, we know some of the routes, but just curious if you can maybe enlighten us as to how you see that launch developing and how we should think about as we get closer and closer. Thank you.
Thanks, Andres. The UAE is really all about early commercial launch. It's a chance for the world to see these aircraft. It's a chance for the world to see how these aircraft will handle in different conditions. And it's a chance for us all really to learn. So you could expect this to be a low level of operations with a handful of aircraft going back and forth from established point-to-point operations, and really, a way for Archer to start deploying aircraft in a very safe but also very efficient manner. I'll let Tom give a brief introduction on how we plan to get there and give a little more color on the path.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing to keep in mind, Andreas, is the certification pathway there is really well laid out between us and the GCAA. And we've been executing on that over the last couple of quarters, which has been great. Much of that work overlaps with what we're already doing with FAA. And so it's really just giving us, another source to deliver the data that we've been gathering for certification. Another thing to keep in mind is we're partnered with Abu Dhabi Aviation and UAE. And so they're ultimately going to be the group operating these aircraft out there with us delivering vehicles, selling vehicles to them in this launch edition program. So to give you a sense for what you can expect to see over the next several months is, first, we're going to deliver an aircraft to the UAE later this summer. We'll start by doing some incremental testing out there, mostly doing things like validating performance in the higher temperature environment. Then we'll move on to approving routes on our intended networks in Abu Dhabi and the broader UAE. And then ultimately working towards carrying passengers again with Abu Dhabi Aviation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Tom. And maybe just as a quick follow-up regarding the launch edition. So, Abu Dhabi Aviation will be the first customer as previously disclosed. You've mentioned now that Ethiopian Airlines will be maybe its second customer. Just curious if you can maybe share with us how you see that customer and that commercialization developing and maybe some timing around that. Thank you.
Thanks, Andres. There are actually a lot of countries and partners that have been interested in the launch edition program. And so we are focused on balancing the deliveries to launch edition customers alongside our own testing here in California. So we'll have more to report on that coming in the next few months and quarters. And so I will save it for that.
We have a question from Edison Yu with Deutsche Bank. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you for taking our question. I had a follow-up just on launch. Any sense on how to think about the growth of that in terms of revenue over the next few years? Is that something that could be, tens of millions of dollars per quarter?
Anderson, this is Adam. So the launch edition aircraft is really all about early adopter markets. And then, of course, we have the FAA big Western markets as well. And so it's a way for us to be able to deploy aircraft pretty much on a basis of us being able to manufacture them. So it will turn into a manufacturing question here. And so, yes, you can think about it in terms of the ability to generate a significant amount of revenue, but also really trying to get aircraft out into the wild and proving a bunch of their capabilities and learning from that in a very safe environment. So there are lots of countries around the world, lots of markets around the world that are interested in this, and it's a good way for us to, get the aircraft out there.
Understood. And then just on the AI-based efforts, I think you alluded to, upgrading the infrastructure in the U.S. What could a potential go-to-market of that look like? Would you be working with the airlines that you're partnered with, or is it more working directly with FAA?
So Archer, of course, has a lot of partners in the airline industry, and we've been working with them to really understand the different capabilities that they have as we look to build out our own internal capabilities. So, for example, movement control. We have our own movement control app that we've been building. As we've gone deeper into these discussions with our partners, it was very apparent that there is a great opportunity to involve in a much larger scale operation. So taking a lot of the software that we've built internally and finding different ways to actually monetize it with some of our partners or just the general broader aviation industry. So we announced a partnership with Palantir, which kind of covers a couple core areas. The first one is in scaling manufacturing. We are building a factory of the future that can scale to thousands and hopefully tens of thousands of aircraft or more. But this will require a new way of manufacturing aircraft that heavily relies on software. The second is building the aviation infrastructure of the future, which is what you're mentioning. And so we have several products in development that could have substantial impact to our business and to the broader aviation industry. And as we develop more and those products mature, we'll be happy to share those.
Our next question is from Josh Sullivan with The Benchmark Company. Your line is now open.
Hey, good evening. I know
Good evening.
commenting on the Anduril. I know commenting on the Anduril partnership's sensitive at this point in time, but curious as we look at some of the initial, skinny defense budgets or other items out there, any supporting programs we can see externally at this point?
Yeah, as I've mentioned, Josh, I appreciate the question. We're limited just in the nature that we are able to say, but what I can say is the hybrid eVTOL program has achieved several internal milestones that have really given us a lot of confidence internally that this will become a major part of our business. And it really fits into the messaging of a lot of what this administration talks about of building, aircraft of the future. And so I think that this is going to be an exciting part of our business, but more to come on that.
Got it. And then maybe as a related follow-up, as you deepen your relationships in the Middle East and with other international entities, what conversations are you having as it pertains to the defense aspects of either that partnership or generally?
Yeah, we've actually had a lot of inquiries from a bunch of our partners and a bunch of the countries that we've been talking to. But as a reminder, the way the relationship with Anduril is structured, Archer is manufacturing the aircraft and then effectively will sell the aircraft to Anduril, who is representing the customers. So all the customer-based conversations run through Anduril, and I think Anduril is very well equipped to handle those types of conversations. So it's probably a question that's better more directed towards them. And so I appreciate it, but there's not much more I can share.
Got it. Well, thank you for the time.
Thanks.
Our next question is from Bill Peterson with JP Morgan. Your line is now open.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thanks for taking the questions. In the last quarter, you had talked at the time that pilots and flights would be coming soon, and I think there was an expectation it might have been happening within that quarter. And now you're saying imminent. I'm curious maybe what kind of caused any sort of 1 or 2 month delay, if any, and maybe you could just elaborate on what's required now between piloted tests, any final checks ahead of the milestone. Just basically elaborate on your flight testing program from here.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. So we expect the first piloted flight to take place within days. And we've had the aircraft out on the airport, doing piloted testing for weeks at this point. And we've got a lot of confidence that it will be in the air soon. Taking a step back, all of this testing we're doing now is really based off of, the hundreds of flights over the last year and a half or so that we've done on the unmanned Midnight aircraft. And now we're just, putting a pilot on board and continuing the testing. But to get at your question, one of the main differences between this aircraft and the previous one
is how heavily we've instrumented it with flight test instrumentation hardware and software. And so I mentioned earlier on the call, we're measuring it's over 40,000 parameters on this aircraft. And so just to be straight up, it was a lot trickier than we thought to get that system working. And, that caused a modest delay. But the good news is we're through this now, and we've got a lot of confidence that we'll be in the air very shortly.
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks for that. And maybe a bit of a mid and longer term question. It's also about the hybrid program, but potentially being positioned for passenger. I guess you mentioned earlier, potential use cases in civil. I guess on one hand, I'm envisioning maybe with a more complex powertrain, it could represent a longer cert time. But on the other hand, with all the heavy lifting that you and others in the industry are doing on batteries, perhaps it won't be as onerous. I guess just trying to consider if you would maybe consider a hybrid variant, or even maybe a short takeoff and landing, within the passenger segment in the not too distant future, given I think some of the focus on fully electric may have had more, I guess, support in a different administration, while, hybrid certainly can open up the envelope, including for longer range.
You're very observant, Bill, and yes, that is I'll just call it a good observation. We are considering lots of different potentials for the powertrain of that aircraft, including both civil and defense applications.
Our next question is from Savi Syth with Raymond James. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. If I might ask, I think on the last call, you had mentioned, Tom, that there were some issue papers that the FAA had to close out. Does the one that you talked about standardizing, the propulsion wash, does that address all of them? Are there still some pending? And does that then affect, your planning on building additional certification aircraft?
Yep. Hey, Savi. Thanks for the question. So we did, as I mentioned earlier in the call, resolve the total loss of propulsion issue paper with FAA. And so that unlocks the vast majority of the remaining, kind of small percentage of compliance items that have been open. And so with that now behind us, we can really kind of just get back and execute. And so that positions us really well with FAA for the next coming months. And I think you'll see a marked increase in performance over the rest of the year.
So kind of on that production, so that hasn't been something that's holding you back on production? So that's not tied to kind of waiting on that, and production's kind of going ahead without,
Adam,
just, how you can work with things.
Yeah, I think I understand the nature of the question. You can always build at risk. I think the good news of the issue paper that Tom was referring to was it did not result in any changes that we had to make. And I think we had accurately built that. But it does give us more confidence to accelerate some of our plans. And so it's just a balance of what you want to build. Again, this was not something unique to Archer. This was an industry-wide issue paper. And so, we're fortunate that it came out the way that we thought it would. But it is the unlock that we needed to, keep things moving.
Perfect. Thank you.
We have a question from Austin Moeller with Canaccord. Your line is now open.
Hi, good afternoon, Adam and Priya. Just my first question here. So in the skinny budget, there was $1.2 billion added to FAA spending for personnel additions and infrastructure upgrades. How might this benefit you either from a cert perspective or support your plans with Palantir and air traffic management?
Austin, I think it's early to judge that at this point. I think we've had good traction with the FAA to date through what it's been. So anything additional that gets added, I think is we'll be happy to receive that. But I think it's early to give any comments on any of that yet.
Okay. And can you comment on the production scaling, and is that still on track for 2 aircraft per month by end of year?
So a lot of this has to do with us balancing our ability to do testing internally with delivering aircraft
And so we have a lot of aircraft that are in production right now, as well as additional aircraft parts that are on order. And we're just really trying to balance that, the ability to deploy versus the ability, to manufacture. There's also a lot of lessons that are being learned in terms of manufacturing and really trying to refine the manufacturing process that will enable us to scale. The goal really is to make sure that we can do it efficiently and then also do it in a very economical way. So we are ramping up those capabilities, but again, that's just all balanced against deployment.
Great, thanks. I'll pass it back there.
We have a question from David Zazula with Barclays. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. Tom, just to piggyback a little bit on Savi's question earlier, you mentioned the loss of propulsion finalization unlocks some testing. Could you give us a preview on what sort of things that unlocks and what sort of progress you might be able to make based on that?
Yeah, sure, David. So as we showed in the shareholder letter, we have a picture from a test actually from the end of last year where we were testing the aircraft with loss of propulsion system, so one of the engines. And you'll see in video we'll release later this week that aircraft reacted really well to that test. And so that's just one example, honestly, of the hundreds of tests we've done over the last couple of years on that vehicle. And so now we're getting back into this next phase of testing with pilots on board, repeating a lot of the same expansion, working towards TIA. And so it's kind of just business as usual execution mode.
Very helpful. I think a couple of times you've used the word market progress towards certification. Can you expand a little bit or give investors some way that they can kind of monitor the progress towards this market improvement, both on the FAA and GCA side?
Sure. Well, in general, our job is to build a safe aircraft we can take to market. And, it's up to the FAA for when the vehicle will be certified and all that. But we're making great progress. So we showed in our shareholder letter, FAA has now accepted about 15% of the final kind of B&B documents that support that certification. And with the opening up of that 2105G issue paper, now a lot of the remaining other areas are available to build conforming hardware and start executing all the tests for credit, working towards TIA. And so I think it's really just the culmination of all of these things coming together, along with the fact that, as you've highlighted before, we've taken this, I think, really good strategy of leveraging parts that have certification heritage from vendors that have cert experience and putting them in a vehicle that's certifiable and manufacturable and is heavy enough to carry a pilot and 4 passengers. And so now we're just executing on that path. And other part of your question that you mentioned is, yes, it's true. Now we also have UAE work going on. And so the team is very much balancing our focus across, go-to-market and launch with the GCAA, as well as with the FAA. But the good news there is that it's almost the same work, just sort of different customers for the data. So hopefully that gives you some color.
That is, would we expect a potential, quantification on the GCAA side similar to what we're getting on the FAA side at some point?
Hey, David, this is Adam. I don't have a good answer for you that today. I think there's just some sensitivities there and how that, and how that's all being collected. But we'll follow up and get back to you on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Have a great one.
We have a question from Chris Pierce with Needham. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. I know you can't comment on what you're building with Anduril, but can you talk about, how should we feel about your confidence and ability to build it as you sort of, flesh out what's actually going to happen? Like, is it supplemental to the production guidance you gave in the 2Q letter last year, or is it related to the acquisitions you made on that you kind of flagged, or like what's the right way to think about production to the extent you can talk about that?
Hey, Chris. So what we are looking to build is a vehicle that can have both dual use, civil and defense application, that reuses as much as possible from the existing program we have today with a hybrid powertrain. And so that gives us the ability to be able to build a lot of vehicles because we already have a hot line that's running on the civil side as we're using a lot of that. So hopefully that gives you a perspective of, it's not something totally out of left field that we're building. It's something that, makes sense based on like what stuff Archer is building and makes sense versus, what the Midnight aircraft is. And yes, it is expected that we will be able to build these aircraft out of the Georgia facility, and we can flex between the civil side and the defense side, and give upside to the ability to deliver more aircraft, if we're able to build and there are programs that are in place.
Okay, and just thank you for that. On the longer flight times of the greater mileage, is this something where I'm just trying to picture someone being in a helicopter for a hour flight? Is that something that, I guess, would you push back that that's what it would feel like? Or I just want to get a better sense of how this can sort of go into regional air travel. Can it, or is it, do more modifications need to be made?
Yeah, so if you're asking about use cases that hybrid, VTOL could potentially have, there are longer helicopter missions that are used today. So, for example, servicing, oil rigs is a good one that are typically, further than typical eVTOL range. There are other examples that are more cargo-based that could have longer ranges that are use case. There's also some civil cases. I do think the civil side will likely be limited by not range of the aircraft, but willingness of a consumer to sit in a vehicle for a certain period of time, meaning I don't think somebody's going to want to sit for 5 hours, but they may be willing to sit for 2 hours. So I think there are limitations there that we will learn as we take products and go get them out. I do think there are good go-to-market use cases on the civil side that we will certainly explore, and it will just open up the ability to deliver aircraft.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question is from Amit Dayal with H.C. Wainwright. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My question, guys, is around just the aircraft costs. Just wanted to see if you can share any color on how the aircraft build costs are tracking against, expectations you might have had 12 months ago, especially in the context of all these tariffs, etc. Are you close to, what you may have been anticipating, or, are you not maybe tracking as closely? Just wanted to see if you can share any color on that. Thank you.
Sure. So it's obviously early in the sense that we're building in very low volumes. So I wouldn't expect to see some significant, cost performance when you're building, let's call it in the, single or low double digits of aircraft. I think it's when you start to get to a larger scale that you see those benefits. What we've said historically is that, we think around the 250 level of aircraft builds is where we can get to our target gross margins. And so that's something that we still believe is true. From a tariff perspective, most of our systems are built or manufactured here in the U.S. So I think there is a limited exposure from that. And so we don't see that having a material impact at this point.
Thank you. That's all I have, Adam. Appreciate it.
I'll now turn the call back over to Adam Goldstein for any closing remarks.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining the call today. I am super proud of what the team has been able to accomplish, but this is just the beginning. 2025 is an inflection point for the company and for the industry. I'm excited to share more in the weeks and months ahead. Let's keep building.
That concludes today's call. Thank you all for your participation. You may now disconnect your.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Now, that was a tough call. I would say the Q&A element of that, they nailed obviously the the parts of the letter that they basically read out. But yeah, that was tough listening. I don't know if it's because I came into it with a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a few notes. like obviously, as always, guys, don't take this as me being bearish and that's it, I'm out. I'm a little bit apprehensive now on their manufacturing capability. You danced around that question quite nicely, but reading between the lines, I'm not sure if they're going to hit the targets for the end of the year. Now, obviously, I did think they said that it would be the latter part of the year that would be good doing 2 aircrafts a month. But bearing in mind we're in May now, are they going to be able to hit 2 aircrafts for June going onwards? I don't know. And the other part of it is this the certification. We didn't really get a direct answer on where we are, where we stand. And to be honest, I think we need to all bear in mind that there isn't a regulation pathway all the way through just as of yet. So similar to what he's saying, that they're taking parts of certifications that have already been approved and using on the aircraft. And to be honest, that's the most sensible way to go with it. But yeah, and then the other part was obviously the piloted flights are coming out this week. I thought they'd already kind of went with that. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few moments there that.
Yeah, so guys, I don't want people thinking we're bearish here at all. If anything, we are two of the biggest bulls when it comes to both Archer and Joby. I'm going to start off with the positive points that I sort of took away from that. So we've seen, he said, in the likes of Abu Dhabi, they're working with 70 plus helipads that they're looking at developing into vertiports.
Yeah.
We can see where the vision's going now. We can see they're looking to go after existing infrastructure. And I feel like it's not entirely going to be starting from scratch. I genuinely think this is what they're doing. They're going after retired helicopters and they're going to convert them into vertiports. We knew that the highest in the industry cash wise. Now, go on.
Sorry, just on that helipad one. The only comment that I did think was a bit of a strange one was, and I think someone mentioned it in the chat, was about that it was more like a testing, because he was asking, was it going to generate tens of millions a year? And he said, well, it can't be sure. It's basically being used as like a testing facility. So I'm not sure. I know that they're purchasing the aircraft, but you'd imagine that they're not going to be purchasing 1 or 2. Surely they're going to be purchasing 10s, 20s. That's the only thing for me there.
What kind of scares me is the way Adam was talking. He said at one stage the likes of Palantir will enable them to build thousands, if not tens of thousands of aircraft per time. But the way he was talking, it sounded like in the mid-term to the long term. It didn't sound like it was a far-fetched idea the way he was explaining that. But then when it comes down to the Q&A, it felt like, again, were we a little bit exposed again? We're fine once it comes to the pre-rehearsed press release. But as soon as some of these analysts come in, and maybe some of the analysts come in with, I don't think too many of these analysts know much about Archer before they come in. They probably know the financials behind them, but it's like they don't research the company. Because I thought that was the silliest question known to man about what will it feel like flying in a helicopter for an hour. I thought you have one chance to ask a business anything, and you asked, would it be like flying in a helicopter for an hour? Even Adam was a bit gobsmacked by
how do you even answer that question?
Some of the guys are saying we're still up 6% after hours. From what I can see, we're up 2.53%. I could see us. It depends what the macro does, but I could see a little bit of a pullback at opening bell once everyone starts digesting this. Once you re-listen to the call, I think everyone's still over the moon by what happened as the market closed.
Yeah.
And I think we said it before the call. It seems to be a going trend in the eVTOL industry that they seem to get exposed once the analysts start talking.
I do think though that is part of being in your infancy,
Yeah.
and when you haven't actually got the aircrafts and produced them, it's very difficult to, number one, probably give a timeline. I think a lot of these companies probably would prefer not to, and I think maybe they've learned a lesson today on
Yeah.
giving too optimistic timelines can cause greater fear later on. Because had they have given a target of 2027, people probably would have eased off. But I think the analysts are drilling into now the fact that it's going to be operational by, well, we were hoping to have pilot flights by this call. And the fact that certification seems a bit further off now than we were expecting, it's looking highly unlikely now to be by the end of this year.
I genuinely, I don't want to say it, guys. And this is where, look, again, this is not me being bullish, bearish, or whatever, but just my overall gut feeling. I could see it being a 2026, end of 2026, still of 2027 at this rate.
Yeah.
It's just push more. It feels like they're putting all their eggs in one basket now when it comes to Abu Dhabi, and it feels like they're sort of letting the FAA go on the back foot for now. Now, one thing I did find quite interesting is that he started mentioning they have several products of the future that they're looking at bringing out. He didn't want to push too much into that. But another thing, the hybrid VTOL aircraft, again, they're on about selling it to Andrew, and Andrew being the face of it. Is this what avenue Archer are going down in every part of their business? Just get the aircraft out there. Let everyone else deal with the marketing side and this, that, and the other. Even though Archer's marketing is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Get the well-known companies to actually push them through. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It seems like that is the sort of the business plan, that they seem to get a big name, and it sort of leads on to something he dropped at the very beginning of the call, and he didn't actually elaborate on it, but he said there's a new partnership that they're going to be releasing soon. That's the biggest yet. Now, he started off on that, and that really, at that point, I was like, "Oh, this is
years are up straight away." Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, and like, to be honest, we came in on such high spirits. Everyone in the chat here, were buzzing, sort of going in. But yeah, as it went on, I lost a little bit of faith. But to be fair, I do think these calls with the chat running, there are some funny comments that come in, and it does.
Oh no, one of them that got me was gravy, something great, diet gravy. That got me cracking, bro.
Yeah,
guys, let me know how you're feeling about it. I don't want to be a downer. Like, are we overreacting here? I don't think it's a bad call. It's not a bad call at all. We have seen much worse.
Yes.
But I just think for that initial pump of whatever, close to 10%, was it that good? Like, I don't know. Where can you sort of see it going tomorrow? Do you think we're going to open green or?
As you were saying, I'm hoping the macro is going to keep it up. But if it was based on that call, I could see a bit of fear because the timeline looks like it's been stretched just based on that call.
Maybe Archer is bogus, Bagger Holden says. Bagger Holden, I want you to give me a comment on what did you think of the Joby's test flight? The piloted test flight of a man at 200 pounds flying 5 miles. And they recorded it all. Please come back to me on that. If you guys thought this year we were going to see tons of planes flying, not some rich guys in the UAE, at most, then you need to adjust your expectations. So if you guys thought this year you were going to see tons of planes fly, no. So we've discussed this before. I've actually done a video on how I would expect it to roll out. I just feel like we're producing about 10 midnight aircraft, but yet we're promising everyone a midnight aircraft.
Yeah.
And at some stage, like, we have all this demand, but we just don't have the supply. It's not about where they're going into or what they're doing. I just think, are they biting off more than they can chew? Are they promising too many people things and not having the ability to deliver it? That's all I'm saying.
That sort of kind of leads me into the Andrew partnership. Really, that is the one that I think is the golden goose. And I'm hoping that it's not sort of just hiding behind it, that it's all secret and privacy driven, and that they have started working alongside them, and the hybrid is close to production at this point.
So Dylan, I don't know if the piloted flights were to be expected. I think Adam's tone was very low on the Q&A. Now, I done a video about 3 weeks ago where I thought we were ramping up for piloted test flights. And then before that call there, when we seen that video, we more or less, we can say before the call, we more or less assumed that we are getting these piloted test flights soon. This week, maybe we didn't think it was this week. But yeah, I do agree. I don't know, he felt a bit deflated in the Q&A. And I don't know if that just rubbed off on me and Reese. I feel like it's me and Reese versus the chat at the moment. It feels like we have the analysts here. Next dump, I'm going into 2027 leaps, not shares, too risky for long term. We don't trade options, not because we think it's too risky, just because we genuinely
lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding of doing it. However, I genuinely, at this stage in my investing career, I just think I just prefer sticking to the basics, owning shares, and just keep accumulating. What's your thoughts on that, Rafe?
Very similar. I think, as we've mentioned many a time before, and you guys probably will get bored of us saying it, like leveraging burnt us, and I think keep it simple. And as you were saying there, we've got to hold for the long term. As I think that's one thing we need to reiterate, is that we sort of knew the part certification, as we said before the call, wasn't going to be this earnings call. It's not going to be the next, and it won't be the one after. But I think maybe it's because I came into it in such high spirits. We've seen where the aftermarket was, so I kind of thought there was going to be some big news that like was known behind the scenes. And we also had Adam obviously buying more shares, as someone mentioned earlier. So I just had big expectations, and I think that's probably the problem here, is that I say it too high. So now when we've actually gone through it, it's kind of caught me. It feels a bit like a gut punch.
But is that a testament to the community we have here? Now, we're more or less, without being cocky, we're more or less getting it bang on before the earnings call. Like, if any of you weren't here before the earnings, most of what we discussed in that press release and in the call was discussed prior to the earnings. So is it just everyone is so bulletproof in this, and the due diligence is working that well that maybe there's no need for surprises? Maybe we just keep it ticking along. Now, I didn't like the delays, but I'll carry on. But when they get a question about Andrew, conveniently, it's we can't talk about that. Now, to be fair to them, I genuinely don't think they can talk about it. But I'm only comparing it to the likes of Rocket Lab with their haste missions. They just can't disclose anything to do military. And too right, to be fair. If you want the US to be the best of the best in technology, you don't want it to be falling into the wrong hands. NFA, as always, if there will be one plane this year flying commercial, we'll be very well positioned ahead. Yeah, I agree, but will there be a plane flying commercial this year? That's what we're saying.
I've actually got a good, just out of curiosity, does this change how you feel about Joby now that we've had that? Because obviously, I would say
before someone says that I'm flip-flopping, I did say it before the call that I'm getting quite bullish on Joby. I did, didn't I?
Like I still quite like the plan for Archer, and as I said, I've been leaning for them for a while.
Yeah.
And I do think that them going out to Abu Dhabi and the Ethiopian Airlines, it's definitely the fact that someone else is doing the testing, hypothetically, I do think is a good point. And very similar to the pilots, these aircraft are going to need the hours and hours of flight data before they do get into the US, because I know the FAA will be very stringent. So I can see the path ahead. I think it's the patience thing that's the problem, because like we all want it today. Like I'd have loved it. Imagine if they came out today and they said, "Oh yeah, flights are going. We've already produced 2 aircrafts. We're going to beat the 12 we were going to have this year." Like it would have been great news, and I think that's the problem.
So no, they want to tax you more than before because they make way more money off it. I think they're pushing UAE to fly over open ground, yet now having to push for US to be the first in the race may bring some tension inside the company. Wait for US versus revenue through UAE. I think at this stage they've more or less accepted that Joby is going to take first position, get into US first. I think this was the first call where it more or less clarified it to me that they're focusing heavily on the UAE. We heard an awful lot more about the UAE than we did about the United and the New York deal. So, look, I think at the moment, to be fair, I think it's 2 different business models. They're very similar, but I think they're different. Archer are looking to sell the aircraft to the companies, and the companies more or less do it themselves. Where Joby are going for this more vertically integrated approach where we're doing everything ourselves. And look, they're both good business models, but you can't compare one to the other either. What was the big partnership? I don't think I even caught it.
No, they never.
Do you know what?
Never released it. So I imagine it might be coming in the next week or so, hopefully.
It needs to be coming soon. But I think Archer do strategically sort of like know when to bring out their news. So like, I reckon it won't be this week because they'll let the pilot tests all go through. Potentially the week after, but I can see it maybe. Do you know when news starts dying down? Then hit you with it.
That's what.
Wasn't a great call. It was. That's what I mean. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't. It didn't get me jumping off my seat. I'd like to see the piloted flight test this week. No, to be fair, more than ever.
He did say it was going to be this week.
Yeah, I'm all about Peter Beck's philosophy on do what you say you're going to do. So
exactly.
If you say it's going to be this week, it better be this week. I personally still have belief, but I have more questions at 6 p.m. than I did at 4 p.m. I think we all sort of feel like that a little bit. It's a bit like...
And just so everyone knows, Dylan's the biggest bull on Archer.
Oh, yeah.
So, like...
Dylan, let me know. Would you be interested one of the days this week coming on and having a chat with us? A bit like what we've done before. It can either be live or if you're not comfortable with that, we could do it pre-recorded. But I'd like an updated, like, Archer's biggest bull. Like, where does he see it going now at the moment? Have a bit of a chat about Archer. We could even discuss something along the lines of where are they in comparison to Joby? We can look at the military side versus the commercial side. I actually think that'd be quite a nice video, but there's no pressure on that, Dylan. But I know everyone loved it before when you came on. New Blade. Before anything, we need to get New Blade on for a video because I've promised this man videos so much. So we're going to get New Blade on. Message me on X after and we'll actually set up a time. Now, I'm going to be dead honest with you. It's 11:10 here at night, so it won't be tonight. Seats were part of it. Oh, so Joby's... Joby's 5 mile thing with a £200 man's not valid because they need to have seats. Let's hope it tanks so we can buy more. Do you know what? If it does, I actually think at this stage I'm willing to actually take a bit of a loss on the rest of my Nvidia. And just it didn't have seats and probably a smaller battery. But surely if I had a smaller battery, it would have less power, which I'm not getting into this argument. We've seen it. Guys, it's like you're stirring boiling water. We haven't dumped noodles in the pot yet. You know what? That's actually made me laugh. It was just me. I reckon the SP would be flat tomorrow. We'll dump and then use man flight test market. That's what scares me though, is the more it dumps and then it recovers because of good PR. I don't know. It's one of those calls where it might drop from it, but I do believe in the time and the horizon.
Yeah.
And that's I think what we need to focus on. We can't get too bogged down on even delays. Like we're looking at Rocket Lab and we've been looking at Neutron delays for a while now. I think it's just part and parcel with it, especially when you're bringing a new vehicle to market, and especially like for an eVTOL that hasn't been done before. So,
exactly. It's foreseeable, isn't it? It is foreseeable that you're going to see delays, especially in this market, because you see it in every market when they do anything. Even when you see them build stadiums and stuff like that, they fall behind. Like, unfortunately, it's just part and parcel when you are developing it. It's just similar to what you were saying with Peter Beck. If you say you're going to do it, you'd like it to be done. I think that's the problem.
Well, guys, like, look at it. Are you going holding it for the next 10, 20 years? Yeah, that's what 40 to 80 quarters away. Yeah. So really, what is 2 or 3 quarters? Really, if you think of it in a long-term horizon like that, a quarter or 2 delay is not going to put you up or down. But as long as you're thinking in that sort of horizon, if you're only thinking in the next 2 years or so, yes, maybe quarter delays will start changing your mind. Look, it hasn't changed my mind on the actual company, but it does make me want to go back and sort of dig in a little bit more around even some of the videos we've done. I think we just need to add in a little bit more insight, because I feel like he sort of scratched the surface, but there's a lot of, like, I don't know, sidestepping questions.
Yeah, that was the gist of it, really.
I pray every day for Archer and Joby to tank so I can buy it more cheaper. Do you know what? We say this when the market's looking like this, we pray like mad, yeah? But that day it happens. Oh my God. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm a different man that day.
It's funny, isn't it? Similar to the 20% at the top. When you go down to the bottom, it's doing it is a different, because you don't even know where the bottom's going to be.
Jeez, I'm finding hard to catch up with this chat. Interesting comment about Andrew. I think Adam said,
yeah,
all they do is sell to Andrew, then they're done. Maybe we can figure out what the revenue from each aircraft would be. That's an interesting video we need to find out. We do need to find out that, because if the hands are washed after it's sold to Andrew, we actually don't have to worry about what contracts are coming out. Maybe as a knock-on effect, yes, you'll get more orders. But in theory, let Andrew do the work to that. And Adam was pretty clear that's a question for Andrew. So we know Archer Defense is just a supplier. Biting more than we can chew is what I'm telling non-stop on Discord too. Many aren't thinking about global and eating the PR. Yeah. I just don't want to fall into overhyping. I want to always keep a level head, and that's what I'm trying to do for everyone. Look, I said it. We're not experts. We're not specialists. We are just passionate about this stock. If I didn't care about this, I'd be telling you this is amazing. Look, they've got what 70 plus helipads, and
but Ash was the biggest in the industry.
I'm only telling you exactly how I feel because as an investor myself in them, this is genuinely how I feel. There's no point me sugarcoating it and saying, look, I genuinely feel like we're going to do this, that, and the other. I'm telling you how I feel, just so you can maybe gauge that. You might have thought it was an amazing call. You might have thought it was a really bad call. But I'm just here showing my side of how I feel about it, just to sort of try and connect. And same with yourself, Reese. You're laying across your side. And we said it before the stream. Don't let us influence you. I couldn't care whether you buy or sell. Honestly, it doesn't affect.
I think this is why I quite like having the conversation after a call like this, because usually you just be sitting there with your own thoughts, just dwelling.
Yeah. What do I do tomorrow?
We have the whole community here, and some comments are good, some comments are bad, and do you know what? You go to bed in a good spirit.
Yeah. That's not a bad problem to have. Scaling takes time, and partnerships with Stellantis and Palantir will allow them to achieve the goals. They sound well positioned. I do agree with that. Honestly, and
Many's definitely cheering me up, to be honest. Yeah, I think we need a few many comments.
But this is what I mean. This shows the community there. So many didn't agree with us at the start.
Yeah,
we've all been respectful, and now we've came to a conclusion here where we all agree on. Look, even if we didn't agree on, many has done it the perfect way there. So many, I commend you on that. But honestly, I do agree with that. I do think Stellantis and Palantir will be the keys for the scalability. And yeah, you're right. Maybe having too much demand and not enough supply is better than the other way around. Because having too many midnights not being able to sell them, then you're in a serious problem. So yeah, no, I do agree with you with that. In my opinion, because of the timeline of the market, the momentum trade both Archer and Joby plenty of time, and I do think there will be opportunities across this next 3 years. I'd say there'll be plenty of opportunities. We're going to bang some all-time highs. We're going to bang some all-time lows. Look, if we headed into a recession, we'd go down into the lows. If all takes off and all these tariffs remain released, I believe we'll smash past the all-time high. We can't predict. If we genuinely knew what was going to happen, trust me, I'd be in either way.
You'd be taking over for Warren Buffett, wouldn't you? If you knew what was going to happen.
Do you know what? I put my application in for Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah, that's actually where I was over these past 3 weeks. I was actually I was actually interviewing for a new job, and that's what the new job is. And that's why I said I'll have more time throughout the day to go for the opening and closing bell, but it's all part of it. Yeah, so guys, if you want to follow me in Berkshire Hathaway, make sure to bang that subscribe button. What's worse, us saying we like want to meet Cathy Wood or working with Warren Buffett or like. Got to keep an eye on Stellantis. Their profits are down bigly, and is that still to do with the Codice Tavares sort of fallout, or I don't know? Stellantis has always been a funny one for me. I've never been mad into the business anyway. The only reason I ever have any interest in them is through Archer. Like, if I was to choose an automaker to be partnered with, Stellantis wouldn't be one of them. I actually think Toyota is a solid one, though.
It is, yeah, 100%.
If I wanted to be partnered with anyone, it'd be Tesla, bro.
But even with Elon, his timeframes are never on track either, are they? He always has overly ambitious.
Yeah. How many people are still waiting for a full self-drive?
Yeah. Well, and people always say that it's never going to happen, and he's missed this target, he's missed that target. So sometimes you have to take a few steps back and see the bigger picture. Obviously,
Yeah.
at the moment, we're in our small little scope here, and it seems that the sky's fallen in, but it's never really that bad.
No, honestly. I personally feel like the battle between FAA and GCAA is bobbling. US seems to want to be the first, but FAA needs to make that happen. And GCAA is like, we are ready, behind the door handshakes. I do think GCAA is always going to be first. They just have the money, they want it, they'll get it done.
I do think there is something about the FAA will keep an eye on to see how it's performing over in the UAE. And obviously, if there's a massive track record of successful flights, it will definitely streamline the process.
Joby is flying 2 pilots at the same time and saying type certification in 12 months. Yeah, like, I genuinely do think Archer will be end of 26, even start of 27. I just have this feeling. And Bag will probably say he was right all along, but no, I genuinely have this feeling now. I just don't know. But then, do we just forget about FAA for now? Yeah, put that on the back foot. Do we concentrate on GCAA, and do we concentrate on the hybrid VTOL, and just worry about that for now?
It might be the most sensible route at the moment. Because I had that theory before where they were waiting for Joby basically to get the guidelines set out, and then they were just going to follow in behind swiftly.
And is this why we're not hearing about the Olympics now?
That is, yeah, possibly.
Because the plan was the 2026 World Cup, 2027 Super Bowl, and 2028 Olympics. Well, they're not going to be there for the 26 World Cup. They probably won't scale up enough for the 27 Super Bowl.
It could be. It could be like a low scale 2028.
Yeah, maybe. But then they've promised like New York.
Yeah.
And then Abu Dhabi, and this is where it gets confusing. But look, this is why Adam's in his position and we're in ours. We're better at just sitting behind a webcam and talking about it. That's because we are well informed. I think what separates Joby and Archer are the political relationship. I don't really want to go into the political relationships.
He did do a few name drops though, didn't he? Ted Cruz and Sean Duffy.
Yeah.
I respect it.
Look, I'm from Ireland. Reese is from United Kingdom. We just want to stay neutral. Joby is so much further ahead. In what? I think it really depends what you're talking about. If it's certification and that, yeah, like hands down, yes, they are. But then when it comes to like deals and partnerships and like getting things done, I don't know. Andrew Defense is secretive. US military isn't leading in tech anymore, guys. Pakistan, India, and Russia-Ukraine conflicts. I don't want to get into them. Yeah, you can talk about it in the bar discussion in Discord, but no, I definitely don't. That video of the 2 flying didn't have a pilot in the near one. Maybe the oh mate. Hey, Bag, you never came back to me. Are you gonna do a video of us, Bulls versus Bears? Me and Reese versus you, the debate live. You're the bear, we're the Bulls, and I think New Blade said he was going to be the referee.
Oh yeah, that
if Archer can't produce the aircraft, their contracts are going to be null and void. Can't produce the aircraft, their contract. Oh yeah.
But I highly doubt that anyone was expecting it. Surely there's got to be some sort of time window for them. Their contracts
yeah, honestly.
Be the end of 2026.
Because even if all going full well, we were still only ever going to get 10 to 15 by the end of the year anyway.
Yeah, so you couldn't have give it to everyone. You couldn't have supplied everyone with them.
Joby is about a month or 2 ahead if you're talking about piloted pilot flights, yeah. Flight data. I don't know. I think Joby may be ahead in flight they are. Archer seems to have their fingers in more pies, which might slow them down, but also gives them. And yeah, that is the biggest point. Archer just seem to be in everything, and they're good at getting deals done. But only time will tell. Are they biting off more than they can chew? Can they actually? I don't know.
Are they spreading themselves thin? That is like
Yeah.
query, like, because he did mention, didn't he, about the FAA and the GCAA, and that they were sort of focusing more on GCAA for the moment. And was that going to take certain members of the team off of the FAA for the near future?
Phil, will you actually share that to me if you can find it? He reckons that Joby is prepping a 6th aircraft today. Because I do know they were rolling out a 5th, but if that is true and they're rolling out a 6th, please send that to me because I would like to make a video on that one. You didn't know ahead of the call the UAE will be first.
Yeah, they will be first.
You didn't know ahead of the call that UAE will be first. FAA would. We did know. Well, we more or less presumed. I'd say from eVTOL Weekly episode 3. I think everyone can back us on this. We've always said UAE will be first. Yes, Ted. Boring call from what I hadn't expected. No, Joby's 5th was their. Oh yeah. Call me the honest bull. Honestly, Dylan, can't wait to see you again. Honestly, we actually have to do more content with Dylan because I actually think the guys love it. There's room for both of us to make a ton of dough. Yeah, genuinely. Like, I think there's no point Archer and Joby investors arguing among each other because I genuinely do think it doesn't really matter which one you're in. I do think both will do well. The 6th aircraft to join Joby's flight test program is yeah, so I... Oh...
Haven't been powered on.
To join the flight... I do think it could be the hybrid. That is included in that. So I think it's the 5th eVTOL with the hydrogen hybrid being that extra 6 one that brings it up. 11:10 is so early. At night, not in the morning. We're all long in these stocks. They will print. We just got to be patient. Who said it was 5 miles? Did Joby say 04? The tracking from that day was just around the airport, and they kept flights off tracking. How do you know it was just around the airport if they kept the flights off tracking? If they're using latest seats for £600.
I guess only time will tell with that, really. Like,
all day, you and me. It's coming soon. $7 or below. I can help them find in the bottom. Check the charts on Discord race.
I'm definitely going to keep if we're going to be heading down towards them lows. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that new blade. Your charts are usually on point.
Oh, his charts are solid. To be fair, was buying Joby a few weeks ago. You are in a solid position, mate. I still believe we're going to see over 100% growth by end of year. And I'm only saying that because if I told you what I really think, you would say I'm way too bullish. I put a video out saying that it would go to $20. So if you got more bullish than that, I actually commend you.
Fair play.
Genuine, many. If you ever want to come on the channel and just have an honest chat with us, do. The bigger the battery is, the heavier it is and the harder it is to lift. It becomes impossible at the point. Why not use £5,000 batteries? They have more power. Okay. I'm not arguing. I seen the S4 fly with a pilot in it. That comment up on the screen now was not how I felt. It was how I felt like Adam G sounded on the call. Genuinely, he was just deflated, wasn't he?
Yeah, not usually. He's very confident and kind of like
You
answers
might
them
have just
questions.
had a long day, you know. Some of us do.
No, yeah, definitely.
Do you ever be in a meeting sometimes at work and you're just like, do you know what?
Yeah, yeah. Especially because all the questions were basically the same, just worded slightly differently. So he's just repeating, and he obviously didn't have the answer that everyone was looking for.
No, that would rally the stock. Trump visiting UAE this week, maybe he'll fly on a test flight. That'd be bigger than EHang and, you know, speed.
Yeah, that would be unreal.
Feeling is everything for sure. I believe once we see commercial flights, people will start getting more. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Well, that is quite the scenario. Yeah, mate. Trump has gone to UAE, Middle East to revive petrodollar. He doesn't care about EVs. Again, macro-wise, I can help you. Buying and selling insurance companies day to day, that's what you really want to do. I sort of stay out of the financial sector. Like, the only one I actually wish we stayed in that time was Robinhood.
Oh, yeah.
And
that
I don't
basically
even get involved with like SoFi and stuff like that. It
that
doesn't
was
really
basically
interest me.
that's one where we sort of learned you need to hold and not
Yeah.
try and trade it basically, because you end up getting caught. Because we were in out.
Elon doesn't like eVTOLs. Yeah, I have a few videos where, you know what, he does like eVTOLs.
I
Check
think he
back on some of our videos.
I think he respects the grind as well, and like sort of developing your
Yeah.
own vehicle and getting it up. And he probably understands how difficult that is. And I've seen something before about him mentioning manufacturing is the hardest part. Like, so I think we could have a few rough days ahead, but should give us enough time to accumulate enough that when it does pop off, we'll all be sitting on the beach together having a few beers.
Yeah. Elon delivers. Late, but he delivers. FSD is here. Robotaxis next month in Austin. And Reese, I didn't get in again.
I've had my position for a while, but very similar to what I was saying before. I wish I'd have took the 20% off at the top when Trump just got in. But
No,
that's what it is.
genuinely.
At the moment, I'm just riding the
in our joint portfolio, that is the only Tesla I have at the moment. I don't have anything apart from that. All I have now at the moment is Rocket Lab by far. Archer Joby, Redwire. I started adding, but like, mate, I'm holding the bag at the moment. Redwire, but I can see them long term.
Yeah.
Nvidia, mate.
That one's there.
That's there. Look, I know it's going to come back, but I went in too heavy. I just got greedy, like many retail investors can get. And I got left holding back. Once I can release some of that, look, the market's back. The market is back. So potentially I might put some in the S&P, let it grow, wait for a pullback, and then jump into some potentially Rocket Lab. Oh geez, Berkshire's now biggest hot, but since Buffett announced his retirement, hasn't been the same. Phil, you're invested in Berkshire, aren't you? What are your returns saying now? Elon has no brain, time for eVTOLs. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he has the time for it, but I think if he genuinely wanted to do it, I don't think he has no interest in it. I do think he has an interest in it. He just doesn't have the time at the moment. But if he thought it was a profitable business, and if you see Archer and Joby taking off, it wouldn't surprise me if Tesla come in. We've said that many times. Joby's ahead for sure, but not so much. EHang is further ahead. That's the sort of touchy subject I find around the eVTOL industry. People don't like the word EHang, do they?
Yeah, EHang sort of get a bit disrespected, I think. I think it's just the US market. That's many's opinion on it.
So, guys, I want to thank you so much for being here. I can't believe we actually held a bigger crowd than we did during that meme
Yeah.
phase. And I thought, genuinely, after us being away for 3 weeks,
Yeah.
would anyone come and watch us? We had another channel come in the middle, try and steal you guys away. It just shows what type of family we have here. The fact that you guys stayed.
Yeah.
It means the world. It means the world, the amount of messages we got from you guys. So, guys, I want to give you a big thank you there. Make sure you bang that subscribe button because we are going to, over this next quarter race, I think Archer needs to be a massive focus. We need to ramp back up. I feel
I think
like...
eVTOL in general needs to be, I think production needs to get back up to where we were. Everyone needs to be up to date.
We need one video a day for certain, if not 2. There were some days we were getting 2 out. One Joby, one Archer. Guys, we will get back up there. I promise you that. With this new job, it will release me a little bit more to get more content out. Thank you so much for being here. Bang that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out because that actually pushes us up a lot more in the algorithm than people actually realize. And look, if you don't like it, just hit dislike and you'll probably never see us again. So it is what it is. But I can't believe 270 people have stayed here between YouTube and X.
It's unbelievable.
Godsmack, mate. But Reese, good night.
Good night. Thank you all for coming.
You know what? You'll see us tomorrow, guys. All right. Peace out.
See you guys.